Yeah, so I do believe it was appropriate. I mean, the prosecutors themselves were going after 30 years, and he was given what, 22 and a half, I believe. He the earliest, from what I've been reading about, experts say that he would be up for parole would be like 2035 or 2036. And it's also a whole lot worse than what his defense was trying to get, which was probation and the time he already had spent behind bars. And in comparison to other officers that have been tried and actually found guilty and sentenced, in the dating back to 2005, there's only been 11, and the average was just under 21.7 years, and the median was 15. So if you take those into account, slightly higher than the average, a lot higher than the median. It seems to be pretty appropriate. And again, the prosecution was seeking 30, and they got 75% of that.
Hey, alright. Yeah. So, like, there's two questions here, really. Or, like, there's two ways to answer this question. Like, first off, like, I don't know who it was who just spoke, but, they basically said that, like, this is the sort of average sentence for a crime of this kind. That's fine. And it seems to be somewhat in line. So the idea of, like, is this a proportional sentence? It seems to be somewhat. There's definitely an argument to be made that a sentence should be heavier if somebody is abusing a position of power in order to be able to commit the crime that they committed. So perhaps there could be some argument around that. But broadly, I think 22 and a half years for second-degree murder is okay enough. I think more broadly is that this, is this sentence fair? Is the sentence just? Well, no, because the American incarceral system isn't fucking fair or just. Like, this is about how much you guys want to punish Chauvin for what he did. And our carceral systems here in the UK and in the United States, they are built to punish people. They're not built to rehabilitate. So in the arguments and debates that we've heard, there's been a whole bunch of people talking about rehabilitation without actually talking about whether or not this sentence of 22 and a half years in prison is going to rehabilitate this man in any fucking way, shape, or form. So in that sense, I would say that there is no such thing as a just sentence within the American prison system, but in as much as it is proportional compared to the kind of sentences other people get for similar crimes, it seems like it's somewhat proportional, although you could argue for sure that somebody abusing their position of power to commit crime should receive a heavier sentence.
All right, Sprout Takers.
Okay, so when I first saw it, the 22 and a half years, I wasn't necessarily upset that Chauvin got 22 and a half years. But under more investigation, if you actually look at Minnesota's sentencing guideline, the range that is underneath the guideline for the crime that he did was 10 years and 8 months to 15 years for the crime. So the judge is trying to make a example out of Chauvin, which I disagree with. That you shouldn't just try and make an example out of somebody. And so no, I disagree with the amount of time that he was given, considering the guidelines that are already set in Minnesota.
All right, I'm going to refer to Week. You're muted.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. You know, guidelines are guidelines for a reason. And if a crime is committed that is egregious, or as Vivian was stating, an abuse of power and things like that, it is possible to give someone more than the recommended sentence in our legal system. Now, Vivian made a lot of good points about how our justice system currently fails at rehabilitating its prisoners, at getting them ready to return to society. And so the argument can be made there. But when we ask the question, is this appropriate? The sentence itself is appropriate, I feel. Like 22 and a half years isn't especially egregious for murder. And let's remember what he did. He took a life. He purposely took a life. That's what he was convicted of, at least. And so 22 and a half years, no, that's entirely appropriate, I feel.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Lyra.
So I'm kind of of two minds on this, right? Like, I think from a legal perspective, as far as our justice system is concerned, I think, you know, the sentence he got is probably appropriate in terms of the legal sense. And he was charged with second degree murder, and actually he was found guilty on 3 different counts. So I think from a legal perspective, you know, 22 years is probably appropriate. But then, you know, I'm also of the mind, like, I don't think that our criminal justice system should be focused on punishment either. It should be focused on reform. Unfortunately, right now, it's definitely focused on punishment. So, like, as far as, like, the actual crime is concerned, you know, is 22 years enough in terms of, like, a punishment? I don't know about that. Is that enough time to reform? Is it even possible to reform a guy like Chauvin in our current criminal justice system? I don't know, but I think from a legal perspective, that's probably the best we could have hoped for.
All right. How do we then talk?
Yeah, I mean, I think the punishment was actually the sentence was appropriate. You know, when you look at the aggravating factors which were put forth by the prosecution, which allowed the judge to go over the guidelines of, you know, the 10.5 to 15, and could go up to 30. He kind of just played the middle, you know, instead of going, you know, really heavy-handed and being like, no, it's going to be 30. You know, he was found guilty. The judge, I think, did a pretty good job here. He took into account his the aggravating factors that were pushed by the prosecution, and yeah, that's about it. I'm interested to see, though, if the judge's notes do come out about why he came to that decision, because I know both the prosecution and the defense got like a manifesto, basically, of like why he came to the decision he did. And I think it's like 24 pages long, so it'd be very interesting to actually like read that if it's public, if it becomes public.
All right, and Judge Liv?
Okay, so Eric Chauvin got charged with 3 cases: second-degree murder, third-degree unintentional murder, and second-degree manslaughter. Although the prosecution was going for 30 years, the max for his charges was 40 years. The reason he got a reduction is because this would be known as his first major crime, which limits the ceiling at which the judge could sentence the defendant. The big misconception is that charges don't stack. They take the biggest one using umbrella law, which means they just take the charges with the biggest crime and apply them to all the crimes. Using the Britain's calculator, you can take the 22 years multiplied by 0.8, and you get his probable prison sentence, which is 17 years. The average penal time for the crime he did was around 30 years. But specifically in Minnesota, the guidelines outlined by the state suggested that Chauvin gets specifically 12.5 years. But the prosecution argued for special cases in which they said that there were more aggravating factors which led for the justification for him to be charged more. And that's why you lead with your seemingly absurd decision of 22.5 years, which is 10 years over the restrictions, is because, you know, special case, meaning they can like overcharge him on, you know, special factors.
All right. Did I forget anyone?
Is that everybody?
Yeah. Okay. You can
Yes, I'm glad Cutsleeve brought up the maximum sentencing in the guidelines there. Minnesota State Statute, what was it, like, 609.19, murder in the second degree, subdivision 2, unintentional murders, is 40 years, right? Is the maximum sentence that you could have got for that. I don't give a fuck about like averages and shit. We've got to recognize that this is an exceptional case. This isn't just somebody like beating somebody up in a bar fight and accidentally like hitting them in the wrong place and killing them. This is like an abuse of power by a person in a position of authority. I think it's perfectly reasonable that he would get more than the average prison time for this crime, right? If we were to compare it to other crimes that are similar within the state, it stands to reason that he would get a bit of extra time because of that. I honestly don't see any problem with this whatsoever. Spartacus obviously doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about because he listed the maximum sentence as something like 15 years or whatever.
That's the guideline. You're right. That's the guideline, and that's actually coming from CNN.com. So a very, very not
fuck
Republican
CNN.com.
source.
I'm looking at the literal. I'm looking at the literal
I'm
Minnesota State statute right now.
I'm telling you where I got it right. So the Minnesota sentencing
I'm
guideline
glad
is given
you
a range
look
of
at
10 years,
CNN.
8 months to 15 years for crime. And so what I'm also stating is that it was quoted by the defense's attorney that this was a historical sentence. So this isn't like your average or the okay or anything. This was the judge decided that he's going to make an example out of somebody, and I'm against that because if you're going to have justice for one person, you need justice for all. And for one person to be treated much more harshly just to be made an example out of, I disagree with that almost completely.
Sorry, can you show me what other police officers in the state of Minnesota have been charged with second-degree murder, and tell me about their sentences? Or are you arguing that absolutely everybody who commits a second-degree murder, right, should receive the exact same sentence, regardless of any kind of circumstances around the act?
I mean, if the people so there's a range, right? So 10 years and 8 months to 15 years. That is the range. That is the guideline range. So that
I've just put the fucking guidelines in the chat. So it's a maximum of 40 years for the crime.
That fact does not mean that every person would get the same exact sentence, right? And if the people of Minnesota don't like the guidelines, then they don't have to like the guidelines. They can elect other people to change the guidelines. That's how the election system works. With this being said, I'm not exactly upset. Yeah, so I'll link the source that I'm on right now. I don't know where the hell you put your link, but you obviously didn't put it whereby. So
I linked the Minnesota State statute in the stream chat right there, like the actual fucking law, rather than a CNN actual article.
You still didn't tell me where you put it in stream chat.
When talking about
she's speaking about Mr. Geek's stream chat, but I've just to characterize this as some sort of that the judge was making an example. When the defense attorney mentioned that it was a landmark case, he wasn't talking about the sentence here, that the sentence was somehow historically significant.
I actually have to correct you on that. Floyd family attorney Ben Crump in a statement said the historic sentence brings the family and country one step closer to healing by delivering closure and accountability. So there's a little bit of a correction. The attorney was talking about the sentence, not the case.
Okay. The sentence compared to what? Ooh. Compared to what other police officers that have committed the crime of second-degree murder in the state of Minnesota? Have there been any that have been fucking charged? Have there been any that have been found guilty? I don't know. I don't think there's been any that have been found guilty of second-degree murder in the state of Minnesota, but you can go ahead and look that up. If you think that this is so exceptional, you need to have something similar to compare it to. And like, as far as I know, there are no other cases that are similar to compare it to.
And that's
what makes it a historic case,
exactly.
Because it sets a precedent.
It's a historic. I mean, the lawyer literally said historic sentence. So you guys are saying
you guys are saying historic case.
You guys are saying historic case to try and miscontribute the quote that is from the actual lawyer.
It's a historic sentence because as far as I know, okay, and you could prove me wrong here by doing a little bit of googling if you feel like it, right? But like, as far as I know, it is the first time that a police officer has been sentenced, right, found guilty, sentenced to jail time for second-degree murder in the state of Minnesota. Am I wrong?
I'm looking, but it's gonna take some time. It's not gonna be like a 2-second search. So I mean, you can keep coming after me with this, but you still haven't posted your link, and whereby, which I'm using. Like that link whenever you can.
Just click on Geeks Chat and go look at it.
I mean, obviously, you're having me Google things, and then you're like, oh, go to Geeks Chat and get the link. You know what? Let's try and make this hard. Let's try and make this hard as possible, right? So, we're gonna. So what I'm gonna keep moving
I
is
just
from.
realized I was muted on Discord. Okay, I posted the link in the chat. Sorry about that. And yeah.
It's such hard work. I had to click two. I had to click two links. I had
Well,
to
when
click
you have
two
when you
I
have
just-
me
I just wanna say,
do,
so-
so when you're
I
having me
click
do,
the
when
link
you're having
to
me
the
do, so
statue.
stop.
Let's
When
go
you're having me
back on
do
the topic.
all these other things,
There
when you're having me
won't
do all
be
these
no
other
shit
things,
if
it's a
it's
little
so
bit
hard for you
harder.
to look stuff
Hey, if I could actually talk, Vivian, and you not interrupt me, that would be fucking amazing.
Well, you know,
So with this being
I'll
said,
stop
it's actually a
interrupting
little
you
bit
when
harder
Geek
when you
tells me to.
Okay, well, it's a little harder to actually go through. Like you're telling me to Google this, do that, do that. I'm not going to sit here and do whatever you
It's
want
not that
me to.
hard.
Okay.
It's really not that hard.
Okay, you can say that, but you're having me do 25 things at once, and I'm not going to do that to try and prove your point.
Okay,
So,
okay. Let's go back to the debate, please.
I just want to say, like,
my intro.
Well, let me add this real quick because I actually did the Google. Okay, he was the first white Minnesotan police officer to be convicted of murdering a black person. It was the second time an officer has been convicted of murder in Minnesota.
Okay.
what was the
cool.
sentence for the first guy?
So pretty historic.
Does it say that?
It does not. I can look it up.
Okay, I'm pretty sure
Was he
it's.
found
I'm
guilty
pretty sure it's
specifically
saying.
of second-degree murder in the other case as well? Like,
I'm almost positive that the 10 years to 8 months to 15 years for the crime was because it was the first time that this person was being convicted. As you know, that first-time offenders harsh of a sentence as repeat offenders, and the repeat offenders would get something closer to the 40 years. And that's how it works in most prison sentences. And the reason that you guys are, I don't know why you guys are not understanding that. But the fact that you guys are,
everybody
is a little
understands that.
confusing.
Right. So,
Okay,
Vivian,
so
do you
whether-
not think
regardless-
that him being a do you not think that him being a police officer in a position of authority ought to mean that that sentence is harsher than it otherwise would be?
So do I think a police officer sentence for that should be harsher than it would be for a citizen?
Yes.
And the current
Especially
standings
if
of
that
today,
police
no.
officer used if that police officer used the fact that he was a police officer to be able to carry out that crime.
I wouldn't say that he used his statute as police officer to be able to carry out that crime. I think there was
You're fucking
definitely.
kidding me.
So I think there was so I can't even finish what I'm saying. Can this
Well,
be
that 'cause you
moderated
keep
by
talking shit.
Mr. Geek?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
moderate this somehow, please?
Okay, Vivian, take it down a notch. Go ahead, Sprouty.
Thank you. So there was definitely gross negligence. He was definitely grossly negligent. I don't feel bad for Chauvin. I don't feel bad that he got 22 and a half years, but I'm staying consistent with what I'm saying because I think this is how it applies to all people. If you've got guidelines, the guidelines need to be followed. And then if you don't, if you want to change those guidelines, elect people to change those guidelines. But other than that, I think you should have to follow those guidelines and not just try to make an example out of somebody.
I want to let you respond. After that, I want to throw it to cut sleeve and wait.
Okay, I just think this is fucking absurd. The idea that, like, Chauvin's crime, him being a police officer, had nothing to do with his ability to carry it out. If somebody's kneeling on somebody's fucking head in the middle of the street, right? Like, if they're not wearing a police officer's uniform, surrounded by other cops, okay, there's a much higher chance, one, that you can call the police and they'll come and fucking sort it out, right? Or two, that like a bystander might be able to try and save this guy from being killed. All right, the police. The reason that he was able to carry out that crime in the way that he did was because he was a fucking police officer, right? And people just had to stand there and watch over the course of 9 minutes as George Floyd was suffocated to fucking death. All right, that because what are they gonna do? Call more cops? Right? Are they gonna fucking try and attack Chauvin to get him off while he's surrounded by other cops with guns? No, of course they're fucking not. Not only that, if you are in a position of authority, if you are in a position of power, and you abuse that authority to commit a crime, it is a more serious offence, right? We recognize this when we're talking about like things like pedophilia, for example, right? If you're in a position of power over somebody, if you're a teacher, if you're a college professor, if you're a fucking daycare center person, right? You get a harsher sentence because those people have been placed in your care. And in the United States, the general public are somewhat placed in the care of the fucking police, right? At the very least, they are placed under the authority of the police. And that police officer abused his authority and murdered an American citizen in broad fucking daylight, and nobody could do anything to fucking stop him because he is the law, okay? So yes, it should be considered an exacerbating factor when we come to sentencing. The same for the racial angle, if that was ever proved in court as well. Like any kind of racially based crime or hate based crime should also be considered an exacerbating factor.
Race was never
All right,
brought up in court.
I want to throw it to Cutzlave, and after that, wait. Cutzlave,
Yeah,
go ahead.
so real quick, race and any sort of hate crime was not only not brought up in court, but actively dismissed by the court. They actively said that this was not a crime of race. Specifically on the charge of he had a position of power, even though I do think it deserves a little bit of an increase, I don't think position of power means that you get double the sentence, even if you're not a preceding felon. Because what this does is you basically set the guideline or the precedent that any police officer doing any crime should receive double the punishment of,
Good.
so say, a
Yeah,
citizen.
absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
But what I want to, yeah, okay. So specifically, what I want to ask Vivian is that if guidelines, the theoretical representation of guidelines, is to direct unpreceding things, right? Guidelines are to guide things that haven't happened before, not for the sentences we do know, they're for the sentences we don't, right? Is that
What?
true?
I mean,
So,
no, that's just sort of
Yeah,
no.
guidelines
I mean,
are used to guide the unprecedented sentences, right? It's not
okay,
to
and if the
guide-
guidelines don't cover what you ought to do in a specific situation, when that situation is exceptional, right? You have to move outside of the guidelines. And let's
what
be
guidelines
fair.
are for.
Let's be fair. These are guidelines, okay? This was heavily fucking debated over in court, all right? The judge didn't give the prosecutors nearly as much as they were fucking asking for. The maximum possible sentence was 40 years, and you're bitching about this cunt getting 22 and a half. Now, don't get me wrong, I fucking hate the American carceral system, but if we're talking about, like, a proportionate sentence, this was absolutely that.
Yeah, so specifically, the 40 years is related to if he does multiple sort of hard-hitting crimes, right? So if
No.
he had a battery assault and if he had like a felon assault, then the 40 years would be more probable. But
No.
the guideline for people
It depends
who have
upon mitigating factors. This is what jurisprudence is, right?
Yeah, no,
when
no, no.
somebody
And
commits
so-
a- when somebody commits a crime, when somebody commits a
Those
crime,
factors include
when somebody-
repeat offenders for major crimes, which he
when
did not
somebody
do.
when somebody commits a crime, right, and the judge comes to sentencing, okay, they consider exacerbating and mitigating factors. They might consider, for example, a crime of passion, or if somebody was like being repeatedly harassed by somebody, right, and they ended up killing them, they might decide that that is a mitigating factor and reduce the sentence. Okay.
Wait,
now,
given
what
all the
we-
mitigating factors of the case, the sentencing guidelines was 10 to 15 years because, one, this was not a racially motivated crime, two, this is not a hate motivated crime, and three, this was his first major offense. So, again, back to my
on
question.
four, this was a massive
How
abuse
much
of
more-
power because he is in a position of supreme
A
authority.
massive abuse of
Police
power
officers
is
have
not part of the guidelines.
far more rights than the average fucking citizen,
Vivian,
and he chose to
Vivian.
exercise those rights in the prosecution of a murder, right? So,
Vivian,
I want to let
Abuse of
Cutzlave
power is
respond.
not-
After that, I want to throw it to Wick, Spartacus, Hardwood, and Todd.
Yeah,
Cutzlave, go ahead.
abuse of power is not a part of the guidelines. It's not a part of the provisions. If you want to add it to there,
So who cares?
Yeah, okay. So we have
Okay,
to.
so they had to assess
Oh, wait,
something that was
Vivian,
outside the guidelines, and they did.
Oh wait, Vivian. We have to differentiate what's legally representational or what's legally reasonable, like the prescriptions, and we have to differentiate what we ought to do morally. So you're saying morally he should be given a better sentence, but legally this is not the case because one, position of power is not a part of the guidelines to restricting whenever someone gets
Who
jailed.
cares about the fucking? Why do you care so much about these fucking guidelines?
Yeah,
Obviously,
you guys keep
right?
bringing up guidelines, but like,
If we understand, right, that abuse of power is an exacerbating factor in a crime,
It's
okay?
not,
And
it's not.
shut the fuck
That's
up.
not true.
Okay, shut the fuck up. I don't care about what
But
fucking.
wait, because you're
do.
wrong, you're gonna shout
No,
me down.
not because I'm wrong. Not because I'm wrong, right? If somebody is abusing their power, right? They have power and authority over other people, and they use that power and authority to commit a crime, right? Generally
Well,
in
it doesn't
society,
matter.
we would recognize that to be a more serious infraction than somebody who has no power, right?
That's a
An
moral
abuse of
position. That's not
authority,
what the
an
law
abuse of authority. I don't care. So an abuse of authority is generally considered to be a worse moral action than committing the same moral action outside of authority, right? But like that would be pretty universally considered among people, because basically abuse of authority is bad, right? Add it to the crime. Worse. Now, wait. I haven't even made the point. If you say, you're not even letting me finish the point, and you're going to argue against it.
Okay, everyone stop. Okay.
That's why children shouldn't be on panels.
I know. Wick,
Don't you?
Wick, go ahead.
So this focus on these guidelines as if legally we can't ever go outside of these guidelines. This is wrong. They're guidelines. They're not laws. They're not mandatory. You do not, as a judge, have to follow the guidelines. You can't step outside of that in a legal and be perfectly reasonable and perfectly legal to do and there's various reasons to do that. Sprouticus's argument that this was somehow setting an example is, I think, asinine in a very real way. And no offense to you, Sprouticus, but the argument is what I'm saying. So if you wanted to set an example, there is a maximum sentence that is far, and it exceeds far, I think 40 years was what it was. If you wanted to make an example, there are far better ways to do it than simply have it somewhat above the guidelines, as it were. So again, to leap from he didn't follow the guidelines exactly to the letter, so he must be setting an example, misses a few steps in your logic train. So we gotta look at like what were the exacerbating factors, and there were plenty of them. And again, you can look at the trial, and hopefully the judge's notes do come out, so we can
What
get.
are the exacerbating factors?
Oh, well, again, if the judge's notes come out, we can look at what he felt they were. But obviously, he felt there were some there.
You think there were multiple. Name me one.
Name me one. I wasn't the judge in that case. I cannot tell you what the judge said.
We can't say there's multiple exacerbating
If your argument is that he didn't, like, do you think that in every case that the judge has to follow the guidelines, do you think that's a legal requirement somehow?
So, specifically...
Answer my question. Do you think that's a legal requirement that judges have to follow the guidelines? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
The guidelines are there...
Is it a yes or a no? Do they have to? Are they legally obligated to follow the guidelines?
Oh, I'm muted. Okay, guys, the CNN article I linked, give me 1 second. The CNN article I linked actually has a little bit from the memorandum that the judge put out. Cahill wrote that 2 aggravating factors warranted a harsher sentence. That Chauvin abused his position of trust or authority and treated Floyd with particular cruelty. Chauvin, the judge wrote, treated Floyd without respect and denied him the dignity owed to all human beings. Those were 2 aggravating factors in the 22-page memorandum the judge put out.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the data.
So legally, going back to your question, guidelines are supposed to be there for these things that are unprecedented, right? Because guidelines aren't for the crimes
that's not necessarily true. No, guidelines are there to have a kind of a legal kind of framework.
Stop. Wait. You gotta let me finish. Guidelines aren't for the crimes we do know, because we sentence the crimes we do know. Guidelines are for the crimes we don't know.
That's not true.
But my question to you is, like, what if the judge just said, like, Chauvin does life in prison? Would you be okay with that?
No, I would not. Again,
why
like
not?
if he had wanted to make an example, of this guy, this is the kind of things he would.
Wait, why wouldn't you be okay with that?
Well, because I'm for rehabilitative justice, and simply putting someone in prison for life in our current prison system doesn't help.
Yeah, if you're for rehabilitation justice, then you should have like not the lowest possible time, or you should have a decent amount of time, but like not over. Like 12 years is a good time to like rehabilitate yourself, right?
For murder, for killing someone? Look, I am not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist. I do not know the best way to rehabilitate someone. But to simply claim that like 12 years is fine for murder seems just kind of silly.
Well, wait.
I think it's probably fine. It
It was-
depends on whether or not they're rehabilitated. Wait, look, I've brought up the fucking
Vivian,
guide.
I'm not talking.
No, I don't.
Let me just
I
ask you
think
this: Why do you think we have judges? If you think the sentencing guidelines are the end all be all, why even have judges? Why not just sentence people according to the guidelines? We have judges to take into account the case and apply a sentence as they deem appropriate according to the circumstances. The guidelines are just that; they're guidelines.
Yeah, Lyra,
but it's included in the guidelines, is what I'm trying to say.
Ask me the question.
Okay, whatever. Sorry, carry on then.
So, yeah, if the judge sentenced Chauvin to life, what would your reaction be? Would you be like, that's fine?
Well, no, because that would be above the maximum sentence.
Vivian, I didn't ask you. Lyra.
Would I be fine with it? No. No, I wouldn't.
Why not?
Because that would be against
because
the law.
I don't think that would be an appropriate sentence either. I mean, why does it have to be the because I already explained this. I'm for rehabilitation, not punishment, right? If we just throw him in there for the rest of his life, then what are we doing exactly?
So if we're doing rehabilitation, I would propose that rehabilitation should mean less time in prison, right? But decent enough time where you can think about your actions. And I think.
So where do you draw the line then? What is a decent amount of time?
Yeah, for me, a good place to draw the line are the guidelines. I think 12 to 15 years is a good job for rehabilitation, right?
Okay, so we're back onto the guidelines.
Let's just step outside the guidelines for a second here and just consider like the mitigating circumstances, okay? This was a person in a position of authority. This person was supposedly acting as the law, and it's just like Vivian brought up. Basically was only able to commit this crime because he was an officer of the law and people didn't know how to respond, right? So you have to take that into account when it comes to this kind of sentencing, because it was his abuse of power that allowed this to happen in the first place.
Yeah, even if I take the cruelty into account, in these countries like Norway, Finland, Sweden, these Norwegian countries, even their first-degree murder, the absolute worst, with mens rea proven with a confession, their sentencings are 14 to 15 years.
Okay, but we're talking about entirely different legal systems. We're talking about entirely different prison systems. We're talking about entirely different judicial systems. It's a false comparison.
Wait. But like, real quick, Norway and these Norwegian countries have the best rehabilitation, right? And if we're going to keep following America's standards, we have the worst rehabilitation. 75% of our criminals come back to jail within 5 years. Once you get into the system, it's hard to get out.
If you're arguing that we should reform our prison system, I'm with you.
Yeah, okay, but we can't start talking about Norway's sentencing until we like reform our entire criminal justice system.
I want to let Kurtzlev finish his point. After that, I want to throw it to Hardwood and Suck and Pittelli.
Right.
What about me? Sprout was out of me.
Yeah, okay. So if we look to these countries that have very good legal systems, I'm just like, at this point, I'm in favor of just a copy-paste system, right? Because America's criminal justice system is like messed up for not only men, but for black people too. And if you're a black man, you're super like effed up. So I'm in favor of just copy and pasting what the Norwegian countries do. And in these Norwegian countries, even the heinous crimes, first-degree murder, they have 14 to 15 years of jail time. And this is the best for rehabilitation because 14 to 15 years is like golden period where, of course, you pay your time for your crime, but also you get enough time to think and you don't go insane from spending too much time in prison. Right.
All right.
Can I just bring up that they didn't even deviate from so the guidelines allow departure from the guidelines in situations where there is an abuse of power. It's right fucking there, okay? In August 2020, Minnesota sentencing guidelines, all right? Like you can go down, you can scroll through it in multiple sections. In fact, they allow for departure from the guidelines in the case of mitigating or exacerbating factors, which is exactly what I was fucking saying. And one of those factors is in fact an abuse of power. So like, just because they say in the sentencing document, right, the sentencing memo, that like they have departed from the guidelines. He gives the judge actually fucking quotes the sentencing guidelines in reference to why he's departing from them, right? This is so fucking stupid. Like, you bring up a CNN article and that's all you fucking read on it. Why?
All right.
So-
I want to. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so to bring up a couple things, it seems to be misunderstood here on this panel that it seems to be that certain people on this panel believe that Derek Chauvin was charged with an intentional charge. He was not charged with an intentional charge. In fact, according to NPR.org, Chauvin was found guilty of unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. None of those require intention. And the only reason they got second-degree murder was because it's considered unintentional second-degree murder. So with that being said, according to the post that Vivian put out, factors that should not be used as reasons for departure are the following factors: race, sex, and this is where it's going to get to this, right? So employment factors, including occupation or impact of sentence on profession or occupation, employment history, employment at time of offense, and employment at time of sentencing. And the part I'm going to focus on is occupation or impact of sentence on profession or occupation. So his occupation.
Okay,
So listen. No, I'm going to do. I get interrupted by everybody.
I read this entire passage.
I get interrupted by everybody. It's fine. You know what?
Well, yeah, because you're applying the wrong fucking thing to the circumstances.
Vivian, you gotta let him finish. You just gotta take notes.
It's fucking wrong. Oh, shut the fuck up, Kelsey.
So, according to...
Kelsey, go ahead. After that, Pittelli and Wing.
Can I continue?
Yeah.
Okay, so the part I'm going to focus on says occupation or impact of sentence on profession or occupation. So the factors that should not be used as a reason for departure, one of those being occupation. And to further on that, the court found it unintentional second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. If something is unintentional, it can't also be an abuse of power, because an abuse of power would therefore have to be, in and of itself, intentional. So if he wasn't charged with an intentional second-degree murder, the jury found him not guilty of any intention of killing George Floyd. He was not found guilty of that. So therefore, you cannot apply intention to the charge, and you have to go by the guidelines of Minnesota, where you cannot be used as a reason for departure, and one of those being occupation.
Okay. Please, for the love of fucking Christ, tell me this is one of those panels where people get voted off. Because if we have to listen to somebody bring up such a stupid fucking non sequitur for 5 minutes again, here's why that is fucking stupid, okay? Because if you scroll down just a couple of fucking paragraphs, Sprouticus, you will see the abuse of power sentence, in which they list a number of occupations in which this could be the fucking case. The reason they are including occupations there, right, is saying that you cannot use it as mitigating factors. It is earlier in the document when they are talking about mitigating factors. You cannot use the fact that somebody is a police officer to give them a lighter sentence.
Abuse of power requires intent.
I actually disagree.
No, it doesn't. You can abuse your power by being negligent. Okay, you can be in a position of power and be negligent and thus cause the fucking death of somebody. Okay, and you wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise if you weren't in that position of power. And so it is an exacerbating factor, regardless of intent.
All right, Pittelli, go ahead. Pittelli.
Whoa, you're skipping me, geek.
Go ahead, Sock. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Sock. Go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, in the New York Times article that I'm looking at right now, it cites that Mr. Chauvin objectively remained indifferent, and Mr. Floyd was begging for his life and obviously terrified by the knowledge that he was likely to die. It doesn't say anything about the abuse of power. That was the two aggravating factors that at least the New York Times is citing. That the judge
cited the same ones.
Okay, so but in neither of those does it say abuse of power, right? While yes, I do agree that he did probably abuse his power, right? But in the actual like memorandum, it doesn't
The
say
sentencing
abuse
memo,
of
yes,
power.
it does. It says this court found that the evidence at trial proved beyond a reasonable doubt the following four aggravated sentencing factors: that Mr. Chauvin abused a position of trust and authority, that he treated George Floyd with particular cruelty, that children were present during the commission of the offence, and that Mr. Chauvin committed the crimes as a group with the active participation of 3 other individuals. Okay, those are the exacerbating factors, and they are all listed in the Minnesota sentencing guidelines.
Okay.
That's what I was saying earlier when I said that he quoted directly from the sentencing guidelines in why he departed from those guidelines in sentencing.
Oh yeah, no, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't have departed from the guidelines or sentencing, because I think, like, you know, upon looking at the aggravating factors, it makes sense, right? The guidelines are only there for, you know, they're guidelines. They're not laws. They're not like they're not mandatory.
They're guidelines for sentencing where mitigating and exacerbating factors don't exist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how best to look at them, because they specifically provide for departure from those guidelines in cases where exacerbating or mitigating factors do exist.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
No, but
So
I
the
think,
judge followed the letter of the law. That's what I'm saying, right? This
Yeah.
wasn't like some exceptional
course.
example that he was setting because of public opinion or anything. He was following the guidelines in departing from them.
Of course,
Yeah.
no, I'm agreeing with you. No, I'm just trying to, like, you know, reiterate the point that it's okay to, you know, just use the guidelines as, you know, all right, cool, like that's a little framework, you know, if there's no other issues going on in this case. But if there's other issues, then I don't understand why we're arguing that he didn't follow the guidelines. He didn't go above the maximum sentence, right? If he went above the maximum sentence, all right, cool, yeah, then we can be like, all right, that judge is abusing his power. But he didn't. He cited the reasons why he went above the guidelines, right? It's not like he did it just because, oh my gosh, you know, public's gonna hate me. You know, if he really wanted to, you know, appease the mob, he would have just sentenced him to 40 years and been like, all right, cool, we're done, and not even said anything, right? So he's citing the reasons why. So I don't understand why we're getting hung up on, you know, him departing the guidelines, because, you know, let's face it, like, our parents set rules, right? And do we depart the rules? You know, when we're growing up, quite a bit. So, like,
Talk being reasonable. Good on you.
See, that's why they hate centrists, because it's just like, fuck, like it's just we're fighting about nothing. It seems like.
All right, I want to throw it to Pittelli, and after that we can cut it.
Well, we're fighting because one particular side wants to revere Chauvin as some kind of martyr to, like, leftist
I already said I don't give a
overbelief.
shit about Chauvin.
Okay.
Wait,
So the case that we were mentioning before, where the previous Minnesota case where an officer killed someone, was Justine Diamond, and she was shot by Mohammed Noor, and he was sentenced to 12.5 years, but he was only found guilty of third-degree murder and manslaughter and acquitted of second-degree intentional murder. So it's a different scenario. And also part of the rehabilitative justice thing, it's not just the amount of time you spend in prison, right? It's what we do when you get out of prison, how society reintegrates you back into polite society, how you're treated in prison, you know, what kind of education you're able to get. It's not just, 12 years is rehabilitative justice and 22 isn't. There's so much more that goes into rehabilitating a person besides just the amount of time in prison. So when you mention, like, the Nordic countries that only do whatever 14 or 15 years, okay, but I'm sure they do a litany of other things to reintegrate those ex-cons back into society, rather than just worrying about how much time they spent in prison.
Right. I think, like.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want to kind of address Cutsleeve's point real quick, that this copy and paste idea of that we could just copy and paste another country's judicial system on ours. No, the judicial system's tied to so many other factors, and I think Pittelli hit on it very well. It's not just how long we set someone in prison, but what we do with them. I think that bears repeating. That's a great point. And also, after they get out of prison and after they're out of the system, how are they treated by society? How are they treated? How easy is it for them to get jobs? How easy is it for them to be reintegrated into the populace? So it's not as simple and it's not as easy as just copy and pasting. There's so many other things that have to go into this. And if we want to talk about prison reform, I think that's a great topic. I think that's something that me and Cutsleeve can probably agree on, that we both see that the American justice system has failed in a lot of ways. Rehabilitation is a broken promise that we have given to the American people, because it just doesn't happen in our system. But again, we can't just copy and paste some other countries with a load of different cultural factors, a load of different an entirely different legal system. No, it's just foolish.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So specifically addressing the point, although that there are many other factors to rehabilitation specifically, yeah, prison sentencing is one of them. So I think prison sentencing is a step towards rehabilitation. If we adopt these models that are fair to prisoners, I think we can use that as a feedback loop to adopt other prison reforms, such as I'm in favor of not having the felony. When you fill out your job applications, they ask if you're a felon. I'm in favor of removing that question all in entirety, right? Because a felon can list from a range of murderers to aggravated assault, everyone having different crimes and different intentions, but none of them seem to get hired much. But these all go into prison reform, as you guys said. But I do think prison sentence is one of the key ones. If you're sentenced to 40 years, I'm not saying this is the example, but I'm saying this is an example. If you're sentenced to 40 years, it doesn't matter how society reintegrates you. At that point, you might go insane, right? So sentencing is a big major part. And I assure you, none of you guys disagree with this. So specifically, when it comes to these Norwegian countries who people commit crimes worse than Chauvin, shocker, yeah, but people commit crimes worse than Chauvin, they only get 14 years. They only get 15 years. They have a PS2. They have, I heard the mass terrorist who killed dozens of people. He had a PS2 in his in his prison cell. He had a TV in his prison cell. I mean, he was loaded.
Were these people cops though?
These people were worse than cops. They were terrorists.
Okay, but did they commit that terrorism in the process of doing their job as a police officer or a military officer or a member of the U.S. government? Blah 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 blah. Also, this is the stupidest argument ever. Arguing about what should be the prison time for a particular crime in order to make sure that somebody is rehabilitated. This would assume that the US prison system is supposed to be rehabilitative in any fucking form anyway, and it's basically not, right? And on top of that, if you were trying to design a rehabilitative system of justice, you wouldn't have mandatory minimums or mandatory maximums.
I don't like those.
Have people,
I don't like those either.
Okay, fine, but you would have people being assessed on an individual basis as to whether or not they are rehabilitated and are safe to be let back out into society. That would be the only way to do it. You wouldn't be able to say, oh, well, I think 40 years is too much, or I think 5 years is too little, right? However much it takes to make sure that it is safe to let somebody back out onto the streets is how much time that they would spend incarcerated.
Vivian, do you think, which one's going to be easier to rehabilitate? A terrorist who's killed dozens of people, or a police officer, or Chauvin? Who do you think is easier to rehabilitate?
Well, I think that largely depends. In fact, I think that the police officer is likely to have a huge portion of the American populace still sympathizing with him, still calling him a hero, still thinking he's been martyred by the left because they overcharged him or over-sentenced him rather, and is likely to receive some support from the general public, whereas a terrorist, for example, is likely to receive much less support from the general public, and if cut off from people who share his ideology, he may be able to reform because he'll recognize that he did wrong far faster than the police officer. It entirely depends upon the culture in which they exist.
Yeah, Vivian, Well, Vivian, you deal with cults often enough,
Yeah,
so
I
I
do.
have to ask, terrorists, yeah, terrorists are appreciated among a group of population. That's why they do their like terrorist act, right?
That's why I
ISIS is a
very,
community.
very specifically said if he's cut off from those people who share his ideology, which, let's be fair, a lot easier to do for a small terrorist cell than it is for the I don't know how much percentage of the American population who might sympathize with Chauvin or glorify cops in general.
So, how would you go about in like cutting off people's like relation to that part of society?
I'm I'm not really sure. Your question was like, do you think it'd be easier or harder to rehabilitate a police officer or a terrorist? And I said it depends upon the environment that they exist in. It might be easier to remove a terrorist from the environment that they're in that reinforces those ideas than it is to remove a police officer from that environment. Because in the case of the terrorist, it's a small group of people, and in the case of a police officer, it's a large portion of America in general.
But then you have to, weigh the obvious reason, which is like if someone has the ideology to kill people, it's going to be harder to reform that person because that person, the more dig into their ideology than like Chauvin, who like had an act of negligence and is probably not gonna ever do that again. Not gonna ever like.
He's never gonna be a police officer again, is he?
Yeah, he's not gonna be a police officer again. So I feel like one's much more easier to reform than the other, right?
I do not know. It really depends upon individual factors, like I said.
But okay,
I think there are some cases where it might be easier, some cases where it might be harder. That's why I said everybody has to be assessed on an individual basis. You can't have you can't have solid sentencing for individual crimes because basically you have to say somebody is rehabilitated when they're rehabilitated. You release them from custody when they're safe to be let out into the world. And that could be 2 years for a fucking terrorist and 20 years for a cop. It really depends on how the individual reacts and responds to whatever kind of a rehabilitative processes we have in place.
So if you're saying it's gonna be harder to rehabilitate, because it sounds like that's what you're saying, it's gonna be harder to rehabilitate a cop than it is gonna be a terrorist. I'd like to point this out. There's a study.
I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it really depends. Okay, it could be harder to rehabilitate the terrorist than the cop. It's like it's individuals, and it depends on their ideology and circumstances and how well they respond to whatever kind of rehabilitative programs we have. Right? You're asking me to try and make an assessment with a limited amount of fucking information. Everybody is very, very different. I've seen people go from full fucking jihadi to like white supremacist to like incel and then into like fucking being lefty progressive in the space of like 3 years. Okay? I've seen that fucking happen to people.
So
right?
this won't be directed towards you, Vivian. If that's not what you're saying, this won't be directed towards you. But while we're talking about rehabilitative justice, I want to point this out: a time when rehabilitative justice failed. And this is why I would be a little bit against what Cut Sleeve is saying. But the study shared case studies of some prisoners who manipulated the system, showing remorse and getting out of the longer sentences by exhibiting good behavior. One such prisoner was Usman Khan. Khan was originally arrested for his involvement in a terrorist plot. His sentence at first was indefinite. However, he was soon granted a lighter sentence due to his model behavior. Remained in prison for only 8 years after then being released on parole. In the case of Usan, he then at a conference entered the bathroom, came out with a vest on which had fake explosives, 2 knives taped to his hands. He killed 2 people attending the conference and was eventually forced out of the building. And that is an example of prisoners manipulating rehabilitative justice.
Can I just say something really quick?
You're absolutely correct. In the case of the Prevent program here in the United Kingdom, I have significant fucking issues with it, right? I don't think it tracks people well. I don't think it keeps up engagement particularly well. Okay, there's a lot of issues with rehabilitative programs that already exist, but that doesn't that doesn't discount the importance of trying to instate like rehabilitative programs that actually work. Because if Usman Khan had spent like 40 or 50 years in prison and come out and done exactly the same thing, right, it would be a different group of people that died, but it'd probably be just as many fucking people, right? So like we can't fucking predict things with absolute perfection, but we ought to be trying for rehabilitation, unless of course you're arguing that the only moral course of action is whenever somebody commits a crime to just lock them up and throw away the key.
The only course of action here is saying that we need to come up with a.
Real quick, sorry, I want to throw it to Lyra because I know she was trying to talk, and after that we're going to go into closing statements, starting by Wick. Okay, Lyra, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just wanted to say, like, really quick, I think we can all kind of agree that our justice system needs reform in this country, right? Like, I don't think anyone's really disagreeing with that. But I think the broader point that, like, Wick and Vivian have been trying to make is, like, you can't just copy and paste the sentencing guidelines from another country and then just apply it to our justice system without, like, completely reforming the entire thing from the inside to begin with, right? Like, we need to completely redo all of our justice system before we can just start cutting sentencing guidelines, right? Like, we can't just copy and paste like you're suggesting. There's a lot more work that has to be done first before we can get to that.
All right. And with that being said, we're going to go into closing statements, starting by Wick.
Okay, thank you. This has been an interesting. Yeah, this has been an interesting discussion. To sum up my feelings on this, I think Chauvin's sentence, to address the question, was entirely appropriate. The judge set out what I feel is reasonable criteria for why he went over the guidelines, which, again, following the guidelines is not a legal requirement for the judge. If he wanted to set an example, he would have done something much harsher. It wouldn't have been so, I don't want to say minor because 22 years isn't minor. Now, if you're asking, like, do I think Chauvin will be rehabilitated in our justice system? No. I do not think anyone is rehabilitated in our justice system, and it needs reform. And while we can look to other countries as models and try to use them as examples, to copy and paste everything that they do onto our system is foolish. It's unhelpful, and I don't think that's the way we should go. But we do have to do something, because this is a continuous problem that has plagued the country for many years, and it needs to change.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Kurtzleaf.
Yeah. So, if it is since that it's the case that in Minnesota's guidelines there are these exaggerated factors, then it is the case that legally speaking the judge was in the right. But what I kind of thought is that if we're going to a rehabilitative justice system, we should take action to do that. We shouldn't only operate in the bounds of legality, which is why I've made the distinction legality versus morality. Legality is, did he do the things in the scope of what a judge is supposed to do? And yeah, I mean, if the aggravated factors were there, I should do better research next time, but if the aggravated factors were there, legally speaking, he was in the moral justification. But morally speaking, was he in the justification? If we want to go to a rehabilitative system, then no. If you guys say that, like, sentencing guidelines aren't the end-all be-all, and then there's other steps, what I would say is sentencing guideline creates a feedback loop that broadens other prison reforms. First you do sentencing guidelines, then you do, like, you cross off the asking of, if you're a felon or not, then you increase prisons, or, like, increase the comfortability of prisons. These all have a feedback loop, but it all starts from sentencing guidelines, because no matter how good you treat the prisons, no matter how good they reintegrate in society, if they're sentenced to 40, they're crazy. If they're sentenced to 40, they're beyond done. In most scenarios, sentencing guideline is the main thing. You don't want to be in prison for longer. The longer you stay in prison, the more dangerous prison is. I yield.
Yeah, so I think it was appropriate. The original question, his sentencing was appropriate. Again, guidelines are just there to do just that. They're there to guide you. You don't have to take them verbatim and then apply them. And then as far as the years he was doled out, it was slightly less than what the prosecution was even seeking. It lines up with the years for the crimes that he was gonna get in the first place. It also lines up with the other cases around the country when in terms of police officers killing people. Again, it's right by the average amount of years. And as far as the rehabilitative justice thing, the years do matter, but the years without how we integrate them back into society, the years without how they're treated in prison is it's nothing. It doesn't do anything. So, and the judge has to operate within the system he's currently presiding in. We don't have a justice system that rehabilitates people yet. So he can't just say, oh, I'm doing this, giving him 12 and a half years because I want to rehabilitate him. Okay, but that's not, you're not operating within the system that you're working in. So he can't just, that wouldn't make any sense. Also, like I said, it's not just the years. There's so much more. And with the years or without the years, if you don't have those other factors, no one's going to be rehabilitated. It doesn't matter.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Sprout.
Okay. So I'm for a rehabilitative system. We're not anywhere close to where we need to be before we apply that. I don't want a failed rehabilitative system to take place in the United States. We need to find out a very, very good, solid way of doing it before we implement it, because otherwise we're going to end ourselves with tragedy. I think that this was, I think I'm still sticking to what I'm saying. I think the sentence was too long, considering Minnesota. What Minnesota's put out. I think that abuse of power does require intent, although people may disagree with that. I believe abuse of power does require intent. And honestly, I think Chauvin would have been rehabilitated no matter the amount of time. Chauvin just taking away his job would have rehabilitated Chauvin, because he's got a wife, he's got kids. Taking away his job would have rehabilitated him. Taking away that position of authority. And he's not going to get that job back once he gets out of jail. So I don't think we're going to have any issues with Chauvin once he gets out of jail. Just think that, and again, the jury convicted him on unintentional second-degree murder, which means he didn't intend to kill George Floyd. That wasn't an intention. And if you're going to say that was an intention, it's actually underneath the law of slander. So if you're going to slander the person, that's fine. He wasn't found guilty of intentional murder. So if you're going to say he did it intentionally, feel free, but you're also slandering somebody. So I yield.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Binks.
Yeah, I mostly agree about the rehabilitative justice stuff. I think we should probably relook at our jailing system. Like, for instance, I'm reading a book called Lord of the Flies right now. It's about these people who are bad and they get sent to this island and they work together and learn how to social skills. I haven't finished the book. Don't spoil it for me. But yeah,
that's the weirdest fucking. Sorry, finish the book.
No, I'm done. Okay.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Vivian.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt there. Did you have more to say, friend?
No, it's fine. No, it's cool. I had a point that was just going to blow everyone away, but whatever.
Vivian, go ahead.
Oh, jeez, where do you even begin? It's just fucking wild to me that, when we're talking about a cop who murdered a fucking black dude, this is when the right's willing to engage on rehabilitation. Fucking amazing shit right there, guys. Love it. Also, I think it's hilarious how it's been demonstrated during this panel that two of the major righties, at least Spartacus and Cutsleeve, Cutsleeve said it himself, should have done more research before he came on or what have you, right? But it didn't take me long to Google up these fucking things, right? I did most of the Googling that I needed to do during the panel because they're very, very easy things to find. Minnesota state statutes, sentencing guidelines, etc. Very concise documents that you can scan through and you can find the information that you need very, very quickly if you have half a fucking brain and are able to do that. But that's why we shouldn't listen to right-wingers when we're talking about these kinds of fucking subjects, because they're not interested in finding out the truth of the situation. They're interested in finding out how they can weasel out of the accusations made by the left that they don't actually give a fuck about rehabilitation and they just want to shit on the left as much as possible. It's fucking wild to me. With regards to what Sprouticus said about the rehabilitative system we need to make sure it's really good or it's going to end in tragedy. Tragedy is a 44% recidivism rate in the United States. 44% of people who go into prison come out and commit more fucking crimes, right? In the UK, that's 28% or something. And in Norway, where they really focus on rehabilitation, that's cut all the way down to 20%, right? I think it is shown that focusing on rehabilitation works. Okay, in the countries where it's done, there is a lower recidivism rate. There is less tragedy, less of the tragedy that Sprouticus is so fucking worried about. So next time you come to a panel like this, like, do your fucking research, or at least learn how to fucking Google. And if you can't Google during the panel, that's fine. I understand it's really confusing when I'm screaming at you and calling you a fucking idiot, but I wouldn't have to do that if you'd looked up shit beforehand. Okay, so fucking do it. All right, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, a la cut sleeve, I yield.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Lyra.
Yeah, so, I mean, I basically already said this at the beginning, but, I think that Chauvin's sentence was appropriate for the, working within the bounds of our current legal system. I don't think that starting a conversation about reforming our justice system, I don't think the correct way to do that is by giving Chauvin, of all fucking people, a lower sentence. Like, it's just ridiculous to me that you want to have this conversation now when we're talking about Derek Chauvin. Okay, guys, but yeah, if you want to have a larger conversation about prison reform, absolutely, let's have that conversation. But in terms of where we are at currently with our legal system and the case in question, I think the judge absolutely gave an appropriate sentence considering the circumstances, and that's all I've got to say on that.
All right, and how do then talk?
All right, so it's nice to kind of close this out, but the sentence is appropriate when you look at all the aggravating factors. It's very simple. I don't see why we need to argue that he's going against the guidelines, but it is what it is. In our current system, it is appropriate. If you want to talk about, rehabilitative justice, I'm all ears. I've been, on board with trying to figure out reforms for the justice system for a while. But, in regards to this particular topic, it wasn't about rehabilitative justice. So, I mean, it's a accurate sentence and a good sentence. And but let's all be honest, he's not going to spend 22 and a half years in prison. So he's going to be out early. But yeah, no, that's kind of what I got there.
All right. And
oh, sorry, I forgot one thing. There's no deviating from the guidelines here. Okay, the judge followed the guidelines. I thought we covered, but everybody keeps fucking saying it like it was. No, he followed the guidelines. He followed the guidelines.
Let's move into palate cleanser. Yeah, okay. Let's move into the main topic. We had a change because, all right, so the new bonus topic is, so, yeah, usually, like, we do one serious topic, one fun topic in the middle, then one serious topic to finish, so we get a bit of palate cleanser in the middle. So what's the best / worst food, best or worst food, best of or worst fast food restaurant? All right. I'm not going to do like any like opening and everything. You can directly engage.
Okay, so
Best
the
fast
best
food or worst fast food?
So
Go
the
ahead,
best
Carl.
fast food restaurant has to be Chick-fil-A without a fucking doubt. Okay, that's the Lord's chicken. All right, so when you eat there, just know you're eating the Lord's chicken. That's the Lord's food that you're eating. It is fantastic. I love Chick-fil-A. I always will. And if my order is wrong at Chick-fil-A, I just assume that Chick-fil-A knows what's best for me, and they did it because it's better for me.
Okay.
And but the worst one, I'm gonna have to go with Taco Bell. Like that does not agree with me.
While you may enjoy taking the Lord's meat inside of you, I think that probably a better, more successful. I think the best is, I'm gonna go with it. Fast food. If we're talking fast food, McDonald's. It's classic. Everyone knows it. Everyone likes it. Sometimes they'll have 25-cent burgers, so it's good for the working class. It provides cheap food, and while it may not be healthy, it is. I'm gonna say it's contributed to my lovely beard here. So aesthetically, it's made me very pleasing.
I'm just going to jump in here and say that In-N-Out Burger is the superior fast food chain. They may be Christian, and they definitely print like Bible verses on their shit, but they don't give money actively to anti-LGBTQI organizations like fucking Chick-fil-A. And I don't know how McDonald's is doing nowadays, but they did very heavily employ the use of prison labor for their beef operations, which I don't agree with. And In-N-Out actually does pay their workers pretty damn well in comparison to most fast food places.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A
sad fucking country.
Chick-fil-A actually stopped those.
I'm gonna go to Chick-fil-A because I hate the gays. Like, how fucking sad do you have to be to like go and eat food simply so that you can fucking give money to people so they can fuck over gays?
Wait. Did I say that? I'm sorry. Did I say that, Vivian? I mean, I'm curious. Did I say that?
There's a lot of folks out there who support Chick-fil-A purely for their stance on like anti-LGBT stuff.
I'm just curious. Raise your hand on the panel if you heard me say that.
About fast food.
Chick-fil-A is delicious.
I'm gonna keep shitting on Sprout until he cries and leaves.
We can't deny that Chick-fil-A is delicious.
Go ahead. Keep doing ad hominems. I'm not crying or leaving.
Chick-fil-A is delicious. We can't deny that. But I mean, there are people who won't go to a certain place based off of like Chick-fil-A is delicious, and there are people who won't go to certain places based off of whatever type of situation or morals maybe the board of directors or the owner has. But you could play that game with just about any company. They've all done some pretty terrible things across the globe. You might find yourself short of corporations to go to purchase anything if you do enough digging on them.
Yeah, no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Actually, you beat me to it, man.
I actually want to point out though that Chick-fil-A stopped those donations when it came out, and they weren't donated directly to these organizations. They were donated to organizations that did took this money and then put it to other organizations. So I'm just gonna keep talking, and just because it's bugging Vivian, okay? So why?
I was in the middle of a fucking sentence.
After that, Vivian. I don't know what's happening. We were supposed to touch.
I was talking and Sprout decided to interrupt me.
Chick-fil-A. So actually, Mr. Geek gave the mic to me. Mr. Geek actually gave the mic to me. So I just want to point out that I have the mic and I'm continuing to be talking. So it's fine. I'll just keep talking until I have the room. So do I have the room now? Okay, so Vivian got muted. Thank you very much for the room. So I want to point out that Chick-fil-A actually stopped those donations, and they were donated to organizations that then moved that money to anti-LGBTQ organizations. And when that report came out that money was being used for anti-LGBTQ organizations, Chick-fil-A actually stopped sending money to those organizations that were moving into anti-LGBTQ. So if you want to bring that up, that's fine, but it's been resolved, and Chick-fil-A stopped those donations.
They've done this several times, right?
Okay,
that they stopped and then started again, and then stopped and started again?
Wait, let me finish what I was going to say, okay? So yes, you're right. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, and it's perfectly fine to recognize that, like, pretty much anything you're consuming, it's probably somewhere along the chain, somebody's going to have been hurt and exploited by the companies involved, right? But there's definitely a distinctive difference between recognizing that and going, well, I have to fucking do this shit to live, and going, I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A because they hate the gays, right? These are two very, very different things. And there's a very weird group of people out there who just go to Chick-fil-A because of their anti-LGBT views.
I do have a question. Does the donations that a corporation, a fast food chain give make the food taste better or worse? Like, can you improve the taste and quality of your food by donating to progressives? Can you decrease it if you donate it to conservative organizations?
I mean, maybe.
You cannot.
Exactly. So who the fuck cares? Basically, I understand that we should hold corporations accountable and things like this, but in the spirit of, I think, this topic, which is just to fuck around and be memey, the worst.
No, everything serious, everything politics. No.
The worst fucking place I've ever had. I was on vacation for a week in Florida just last week, and I had this. I'd never tried this place, Del Toro's. You guys heard of Del Toro's tacos? That was shit. It was overpriced. I paid $20 for probably the worst meal of my life. It's shit. Never go there.
Well, fuck, look at that. Sprout was lying again because he didn't bother Googling before he started fucking talking.
Please tell me what I was lying.
Again.
Please tell me.
Again.
Please tell me.
I should
I
probably
mean,
be looking at Mr. Geek's chat.
these aren't facts, right? So she's not bringing up facts. She's just saying that I'm lying. So I'm really curious if you're gonna accuse the
Chick-fil-A still
panelist of lying.
donates.
When?
Chick-fil-A
Show me.
still donates
When?
to anti-LGBT
When? Show me.
organizations.
Show me.
Yeah, I was linked to Mr. Geek's chat.
Okay, can you link it in the Discord or in the Whereby so that way I don't have to go to Mr. Geek's chat on Twitch and leave my chat?
Why didn't you go to Mr. Geek's chat? What's wrong with Mr. Geek? Do you hate chat? Chatters. Spout fucking hates you. He doesn't want to listen to you guys. Okay?
Okay.
That's really fucking sad. The amount
I
of
appreciate that, Mr.
scorn you
Geek.
have for Geek's audience
Actually
giving you a platform.
working with panelists. I love that about you, Geek. Moving that link over to Whereby so it's easier for panelists to be able to debate and actually talk about the facts instead of just saying you're lying and I linked it over here. Go find it. It's absolutely fantastic.
You could have just Googled
it.
It's
right there, buddy. Chick-fil-A's owner is newly connected to Anti-Equality Act donations published on June 3rd, 2021. I told you they've done this before. They'll stop the donations so that they can, be like, hey, we're cool with the gays again, and then get everybody eating at their restaurant again, and then they just start doing the donations.
Okay, do you have a link for that? Because the link that I'm seeing, from Vivian here just looks to be like a hit piece against Chick-fil-A. It doesn't give actually any facts.
Evil.
It looks to just be a hit piece. Is there another source you'd like to point to me out?
Sprout, look, okay. Here, let me teach you something. It'll be really useful in the future, okay? This is what we call source analysis. We can take a look at a source and say that it is biased and still be able to glean meaningful information from it, okay? We can look at the claims that are made within the document, right? So, for example, the claim that they're still donating to certain organizations in June of this year, and you can go and search for that information. You use the search engine.
I mean, there was nothing like that. It was a hit piece. It was the Esquire. It's the Esquire piece, right? So, I can read it out loud, but it doesn't.
No, you don't need to read it out loud. Look for the claims that it makes. Assess the bias, right? Try and work out whether it's a trustworthy document. If it's not a trustworthy document, right? Even if you think it is generally, right? You should try and falsify those claims. So go and corroborate. So go and
again, it doesn't give any facts.
Okay, so if you look at the article, and to
be fair, it did. There's no facts to this. It said
if you look at the article, it says that Chick-fil-A as a fast food chain, stopped making those donations. However, the CEO or the owner is still making those donations, right? So it's not necessarily
that person's actually no longer the CEO or in control of donations of the organization. So.
I just want to point out that I started drinking Coke when I heard about their anti-whiteness diversity training campaign because I'm trying to get less white myself. So
that's when I started drinking Pepsi.
That's so you decided to switch, and I decided to switch the other way.
Yeah.
So we canceled each other's votes out in that case. Okay. I think
I heard Pepsi ended systematic racism through Caitlyn Jenner giving a cop a Pepsi, so maybe I should switch to Pepsi.
True.
All right, In and Out is by far. I agree.
All right, fast food. Fast food. Katslev, what's your take? Best or worst fast food?
We're not talking about I think that fast food is a way to kill people. If you want the best food, one, be born to a black family. Two, go to your black family member's house if you don't have the first option. Because it's just the fact that black people, especially black mothers, make better food.
Poorly.
Everyone.
Eat poorly because they don't have as much money, and like black kids are more likely to be malnourished and shit.
This is about black moms. Just
wait. Did Vivian just suggest that all black people are poor and don't have enough money to buy food? Like,
yeah,
that's exactly what I said.
That's exactly what I said, Sprout. You're look at your giant brain comprehending words.
You just told Cutsleeve that black people eat poorly. Like, that seems to be taking the entire race and putting them saying they're poor and they eat poorly. Like that's
definitely what I just did. Well done. You've totally comprehended every word that I've said there. Congratulations. You're a very, very
Vince,
smart young
what's your
man.
take about fast food?
This is stupid.
So me?
I no,
Yeah, the best
not individual.
fast food probably is rabbit, and the worst is turtle. That's what.
Turtle is pretty slow as foods go, but slug is slower. That's all I'm saying.
What are you guys talking about?
The
I have
slowest,
no
the
idea.
slowest food,
It's the
dude.
beginning of this. I have no idea.
I think sloth is the best food. Are we
Okay,
just naming animals? I think dragon is a pretty good food too. What?
Yeah, dragon
No,
birds my
the
food all the time.
dragons don't exist, cut sleeve, you fucking idiot.
A Komodo dragon exists. What are you talking about?
Okay.
Okay, but
Everyone
okay,
chill.
fair enough. You got me. Komodo dragon. It's a pretty speedy food. I think they can reach speeds of up to like 20 something miles an hour. That's pretty fucking spooky. Nah, honestly, the best fucking fast food is a good old English fry up. Okay, get that black pudding on there and some fried onions, some bacon, sausages, beans, toast, hash browns, maybe some chips instead.
Are we talking
Is that
about real
fast
bacon or
food?
Canadian bacon? We're talking real bacon or Canadian bacon?
What?
We're talking
No,
real bacon or Canadian bacon?
No. British bacon. The
British
only
bacon.
kind of fucking bacon that is actually bacon. Because American bacon is just fat, okay? It's
American
just,
bacon is
You mean
amazing.
American bacon is just delicious?
It's
there's
amazing.
no meat. There's
bad.
no meat in it. There's literally
meat in
no
it.
meat.
That's why it has protein, right?
It is 90% fat.
90% fat. Is that a fact?
I don't know. It's just delicious.
man.
I love it. Bacon.
Yeah, 90% delicious.
Oh
if you
shit!
ask
I don't
me.
know. I don't know, cut sleeve. Sorry, cut sleeve. I don't know, Sprout. Am I a biased source? Oh, maybe you should assess the bias, check the claim, go Google it, and try and work it out.
I
And
just
then I'll
asked that
come
was a
back to you
fact.
with like.
I just asked it as a fact.
So used to yelling at me that she
Listen,
just
I'm going to
always
grab a
knows-
drink. Danabo is going to moderate while I'm away.
Wait, I said no. What the?
I don't
Wait,
care.
Mr. Geek just left us without moderation.
Thanks, moderate.
Okay, guys. Ryan, let's go.
Wait, why can't I moderate?
Man, why are you doing?
Why can't? Well, first
can't
you've got
do
to check the
moderate.
bias, and then assess.
I dropped my fucking
Um,
cigarette.
Oh, don't start a forest
We did it.
fire.
I think we found the. I think that was a good conversation, right, guys?
I live in a house. I'm not going to start a forest fire in my house.
I think we came to the conclusion that Chick-fil-A
My
is the
palate is
best
cleansed.
fast
I
food
don't know about
restaurant
you.
out there.
Do we count things like Quiznos or Firehouse Subs? Is that fast food?
course.
Like what? What?
Yeah,
are we
of course,
count-
that's fast food.
counting as fast food here? Like what's the
Something
criteria?
so something somewhere you can go in, order food, and leave. Like, it's not like you have to go sit down, right? So
Like a takeout
I-
for
I-
normal
I-
stuff, though, right?
I would throw Steak and Shake in there. But if you have to order to go and like wait for it, right, for an extended period of time, then I wouldn't call it fast food. Like I don't know if I call Applebee's fast food. People can disagree with me if they want to.
It has to have a
Chipotle
drive-through.
is fast food.
There has to be a drive-through.
Permission to disagree.
If there's not a drive-through, it's not fast food.
Okay, I agree with Hard
Wait.
Soccer. There has to be a drive-through.
No, that was Pittelli.
Oh, I believe
No.
it's Pittelli. It has to be a drive-through. My bad.
All right, but Chipotle is pretty quick, right? You can run in and out of Chipotle, so but it doesn't have a drive-through. So does that
Some
count
do.
as fast food?
Some,
It doesn't.
some Chipotles
Wait.
do have drive-throughs.
Really?
Yeah, which
I've
is
never
Chinese
seen that before in my life.
as fast food? I would count Chinese buffet as fast food. Like
Yeah,
It's
what
a
about,
buffet. It's
or-
not fast food. It's a
No,
buffet.
not the buffet.
Well-
Maybe like a small, like little mom and pop Chinese food restaurant. You know,
what
'cause
about
you can-
what about Panda Express? That doesn't usually have a drive-through, does it?
True, Panda
I
I
Express
consider
is
that
fast
fast
food.
food.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Panda Express by me has a drive-through.
So Panda Express is the exception, not the rule, though. So we have to look at the rule and make exceptions, right?
Yeah, but there's a bunch of
you
little
have to follow
small.
the guidelines. No deviation.
But like there's small mom and pop Chinese food restaurants that you can run in and out of, you know, like real quick, like 10 minutes or less. So I don't know, but
You
like
know
a
what?
Chinese food buffet, like an all-you-can-eat buffet, no, like that's where you have to like sit down and shit.
I
Ooh,
wonder
that
if
sounds
Google
fucking
defines
good.
fast food. Fast food, according to Google, is food that can be prepared quickly and easily and is sold in restaurants and snack bars as a quick meal or to be taken out. That is the definition of fast food per Google.
I don't trust Google. Can you just
Man,
name
we
that
could
comment?
argue about which restaurant should be considered fast food all fucking day, because that's pretty vague definition.
I would say if they can get your order to you in 10 minutes or less, that's fast food.
I'd have to agree with Vivian on that one, and it feels weird saying I'm agreeing with Vivian, but yeah, I'd have to agree with Vivian.
See, my whole issue with Chick-fil-A though is like the long ass line in the drive-thru. You know, like every time I go there, like the line is wrapped around into the street. You know,
There's a
so
reason why it's so big.
well, no,
It all depends on how fast you
good,
get you
but
through the line.
it ain't that good. It
I don't
It's
ain't
the
like
good
how,
Lord's
enough.
chicken. It's the Lord's chicken. Come on, how
I don't like how they make the
short do you
employees
expect the
say-
line to be?
I
I
know
don't like
you
how they
love
make the
Lord-
employees say "my pleasure" whenever you have to order. It's really
Oh,
weird.
dude, my pleasure. It's hilarious.
I
Listen,
just want to push back against this 10-minute or less thing because I think that goes to efficiency. Like you can make a very efficient system of getting your food out to you, and I
Bro,
wouldn't consider it
it's called
fast food.
fast food. Of course, it has to deal with efficiency.
So you think that the only criteria is the speed? I just don't buy that. I think there's more to it. I think that the name is deceiving in that way. I think it's
Alright,
just
so-
a colloquial term.
So if I go to Chick-fil-A and I wait in line for 30 minutes before I get my food, is that now not considered fast food anymore?
From time of
Well,
ordering
it's a
to
fast
getting
food
food.
restaurant.
O-
because
okay,
they're
so,
intending
uh,
to get your food out quickly, but they might fuck up. Right?
I have another
They might make
qualifier.
food slowly.
It has to if it has a hostess or a host at the door, it's not fast food. Yeah, if there's a host or a hostess at the door, it's not fast food. That's another qualifier.
Denny's
I'll
would be
agree with
fast
that.
food.
How's that a
No.
qualifier? Why?
Denny's.
What does having a fucking hostess there do?
Because
like, how fast you can get your food?
it's probably a sit down restaurant. It's gonna take a little longer. Someone's gonna sit down and come to your table and take your
Sit down in
order. And
McDonald's. What? No. What if they take your order
a lot of those
immediately?
restaurants still have like curbside though, and I mean you could order through like, a delivery app, and
So I want the panel's opinion. Someone in my chat said Olive Garden can be considered fast food. Would
No.
anyone consider Olive Garden fast food?
it's gross food, but it's not fast food.
yeah, I wouldn't consider it fast food, just cheap gross food.
What the fuck is an Olive Garden?
No, their breadsticks are pretty
It's
fine.
fine
Full of
dining.
olives.
It's good you don't know what it is.
It's Italian, not Italian food. It's like they tried to do Italian, but they just epically failed at it.
I mean, it's decent,
Very,
right? If
very
you go there,
bad chain Italian restaurant in America.
I mean, that just sounds like every single fucking restaurant I've been to in America. Like, all your restaurants are fucking terrible. All of them are like cheap knockoffs of random ethnic food.
Yeah, if you go to the chain ones, yeah, you got to go to the privately owned places.
Like,
Yeah,
all of it, it's just like,
so,
yeah, here's a
Vivian-
random culture's food. I'm gonna make
So
cheap
Vivian,
shit.
if you ever come back to America, you need to find the hole in the wall restaurant that looks like it's nothing. Okay, then you need to go in and order food there, and you might be surprised. Just find the hole in the wall restaurant.
I mean, a lot of times the ugliest places, like probably with the most health code violations, probably have the best food. You know, not gonna lie. like there, you walk in there and you're like, wow, this place is disgusting, and then you take a bite of their food and you're like, this is incredible. until later on that night, then it comes back at you.
So there's definitely something to be said about that, right? Like I live in Texas, and by far the best Mexican food restaurants are, just little mom and pop, little Mexican restaurants. The menus are in Spanish because fuck you, and they're, that's the best food. That's the best Mexican food you can get.
Oh yeah, the most legitimate for sure.
America has the best, most ethnically diverse food selection in the world. There is no other country where you can get
yeah,
that.
You've like homogenized it all and like made it all taste like rubber.
Do you vote
No, because it depends where you're at.
British though.
If all you go to is homogenized food chains, then yes, I can see how you have that opinion. But they're quite a diverse selection. Like, again, I'm in Florida. I went to the Taste of India, which was a Indian-owned restaurant. It's sit down. It wasn't fast food at all, but it was great. You can get very authentic.
We have those on
Indian.
every fucking corner. There's like 20 of those restaurants in pretty much every fucking town in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
I'm not even joking. I'm just saying.
Well, I
right?
believe you.
That for
I just
you
I
is like a
don't
fucking
see how that's
rarity. You're like authentic Indian food. Fucking wow. We're just like, yeah, Friday night. Like,
Okay, but I gotta say something. There's not much that can beat Italian desserts. Like
There's
Italian
not.
desserts are top. They top the dessert.
I would agree. The only one that comes close is French.
Italian desserts.
The French can do some good dessert pastries, but Italian desserts are the best.
What's the best Italian dessert, Sprout? What's your favorite?
Ooh, you're gonna kill me there, aren't you? Oh, I have to pick a favorite Italian dessert.
Watch him say tiramisu or some fuck. Come on, what is it?
Tiramisu is delicious. Okay, let's not act like it's not.
Let's not act like it's proper cooking either. Come on, Sprout. You can
I'm trying
do
to
this.
think. There's a lot of Italian desserts. I'm Italian, so I have Italian family, so they cook a lot of different Italian desserts. I'm trying to think of which one's the best because there's so many. So give me
Think,
a second.
Sprout. Think. Think,
I
man.
mean, I really like gelato. I really like gelato. I really like gelato. I'll settle there. I really like gelato.
Gelato.
I just want to
That's
say
your
it's very
fucking
cool.
answer.
I was thinking
I
to
really
be
like gelato,
ranking and
yeah.
stacking our favorites like this, to be ranking things in some sort of hierarchy or a pecking order, and I just like to point that out to the family.
Wait, fuck you. Look.
And of course, you have really
Italian
good
desserts.
because you
Italian
colonized
desserts are
them
hot
and ruled
garbage.
them for quite a long time.
Someone
so,
from the
yeah.
UK is gonna say that, right? Someone from the UK is gonna say Italian desserts are hot garbage, right?
You listed gelato as like the best fucking.
I'm saying I like gelato. Right?
Isn't the UK known for like the worst cuisine in the world? Doesn't the English they're just terrible at cooking, and that's why they all go to the Indian restaurants because the food there is
sorry, Mr. Fucking
terrible.
Kraft mac and cheese. At least we fucking cook out of real fucking food instead of cardboard goddamn packets.
Well, this isn't. I'm talking. No. It's not the American food. The beauty of America is the fact that all these ethnic. No.
You guys sit there in the United Kingdom watching Gordon Ramsay, so don't give me that cunting shite. I haven't fucking watched an American chef on British TV. When was the last time that happened? Because you guys don't have.
But he's not cooking English cuisine. He's cooking all types of ethnic cuisine besides English cuisine.
What are you talking about? We are a melting pot over here, okay? We have our cuisine is a fusion of dishes from all over the empire. I mean, colonies.
And you know,
Little Freudian slip there. Yeah.
England spent how long colonizing the fucking world for spices and then proceeded to put none of it on their own food?
What? No,
What's up with that?
we use it all the time. I don't know where this like perception of American food, of British food, as being like bland comes from. Like I've seen your roast dinners, for example, right? We have a roast dinner pretty much every fucking Sunday, and that shit will be covered in garlic and rosemary and thyme and fucking all sorts of shit. Okay?
Yeah, but your restaurants
we
taste
love
like
our
shit.
herbs and spices. We absolutely love our herbs and spices.
I just think in
Geek, are you
America,
confused how we got here,
a
Geek?
wide variety of different ethnic restaurants. I cannot think of a single American restaurant that is advertises itself as authentic English cuisine. Just saying. So the market is focused.
Zero.
If you want, okay, authentic English restaurants do fucking exist, but there's a widespread bigotry against British people in the United States, and I understand that you might have a perception of our food as not being all that nice. Let's be fair. Your favorites, right? The things that you really fucking love, okay? What you put out on your table for Thanksgiving dinner. That shit came from here, bitch. That shit came from England.
Wait.
We have that shit every fucking Sunday.
Turkey came from England?
No. Roast dinners, my friend, were carried over from Europe to the United States.
And you think we have roast dinners for Thanksgiving?
Potatoes. What? Sorry, do you not roast your turkey and have like roast potatoes and fucking all kinds of shit with it?
So is roasting just a British thing? Because I'm pretty sure roasting's not.
I'm pretty sure most countries have done that. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
It's
not just
roast,
you,
okay?
right? It didn't just come from Britain. So you guys can't just own the term roasting.
Okay, fine.
No, you all ever had a mayo turkey? I cooked a mayo turkey last Thanksgiving.
A mayo? What
That
the fuck is
sounds
a mayo
What the hell
turkey?
is a mayo turkey?
Okay, let me explain a mayo
That sounds like
turkey
the
for
whitest
what you
shit
don't know.
I've ever had.
I just said. Well, why do you think I'm drinking my anti-whiteness Coke so I can be less white? But regardless, like mayo turkey, all it is simple as fuck to do. You take a bunch of mayo, you put spices in the mayo, and things like that, and you spread it all over the turkey inside out.
Yeah, and then you
Okay, no.
Why would you do that to the turkey?
No. That's it.
Why?
That's where I draw the line. I'm sorry. We're moving on.
That's fucking horrible, Rick.
That's
What the fuck is wrong?
horrible.
We're moving on.
It's really good. It's really good.
Hey. Let me just note, there was an American who just fucking said that, okay? You wouldn't catch that shit coming out of a British person's mouth because we know food.
Joe, the oil
No.
helps the skin get really.
Next topic. That's
It's
all
so
I have to
boring.
say.
Jesus fucking Christ! You and your fucking mayo turkey. And Americans will deep
No,
fry them. They'll
I
take
don't
it.
even
They'll
want
take
to
a
hear
turkey.
the.
Take a
No,
turkey.
no,
Just
no, no,
dip
no,
it
no,
in
no,
a
no, no,
vat
no.
of oil and cook.
Have you
That's
ever
it.
had
That's
a
the
deep fried
Thanksgiving.
turkey though?
I don't want
Fucking
to put the word
disgusting.
mayo
No,
and
shit's
turkey
delicious.
in the same sentence. We're moving on. Next topic. Has the Republican Party turned fascist? Is it
Oh,
now
Jesus
the
fucking
is it
Christ.
now the most dangerous threat in the world?
Wait. Before you go on to the next topic, we need to show for a bit. So, if anybody in the audience is enjoying the show, please drop a sub to Mr. Geek. He hates this panel right now, and he doesn't want to be here. So the least you could do is pay him to be here. Now, if you want to be on this show yourself, you need to join my Discord. I'm going to post it in chat. Click the link, go to the booking recruitment section, and put your name in any of the sections, and I may drag you in. That's how most of the people here got in, apart from Viv, who is the star guest, of course. One last thing. Go to shellshockcbd.com and enter code DANABO for 10% off all CBD products. Spartacus, have you got them with you? Have you got your bomb drops?
I got my bomb drops. Yeah, I do.
You got your
I'll
bomb
show
drops?
you.
All right.
Yep. There we go.
There we go. Shellshockcbd.com. Enter code DANABO, 10% off all purchases. All right. Thanks, Geek.
I'll actually take some, so I'm probably gonna need it for this next.
Yeah,
topic.
this should be a fun one. Yeah.
Next topic. After this god awful take, has the Republican Party turned fascist? Is it now the most dangerous threat in the world? And we're going to start with Spartacus.
I would say no. The Republican Party has not turned fascist. Actually, there's a large majority of. I don't want to say large majority. There's a large percentage of Republicans that actually don't want Trump to run in 2024. They actually want Ron DeSantis to run in 2024. I know Trump's going to be brought up a lot. I also do want to bring up that the definition of fascist has widely changed since the common definition has widely changed since before Trump, until after Trump, to become more of a right wing only thing. It's not considered a right wing only thing. It can happen by both parties. But needless to say, no, I don't think the Republican has become fascist. And to continue that story, I also believe that it's not the most dangerous threat in the world, and that's a little bit outlandish that that's even a question. When we're referring to ISIS, when we're referring to China doing what it does to its citizens, when we're referring to Russia saying that Republicans are the most dangerous threat in the world, is wildly outlandish.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Lyra.
So I don't think that like the Republican Party as it exists in America is like fascist, 100% fascist. I think they're definitely okay with some policy positions that are a little fashy for sure. And I do think that conservatism in general can lead down the sort of alt-right white nationalist pipeline very easily. It's very easily for someone to agree with conservative policy positions and then take that sort of to its logical conclusion and get further and further dragged down into things like white nationalism. And I think the Republican Party isn't necessarily the greatest threat. I think actual fascists are the greatest threat. But is it helping any? Absolutely not.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Vince.
Yeah, I think. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think a lot of a lot of Democrats look down on like Crocs and wife beaters, but I think they have their own place, and at the end of the day, I think the Republican Party does have pretty good fashion.
All right, I'm going to throw it to Catsleeve.
Sleeve's dying. Give him a second.
All right.
So okay, I don't think the Republican Party it's one not fascist. Even if there are some people in the Republican Party that are fascist, specifically alluding to the January 6th riot, that isn't indicative of the whole Republican Party. It's not indicative of the legislation we passed. These things just aren't fascist, and it's not the biggest threat to the democracy. I think the biggest threat to democracy is big tech censorship. I think big tech it helps the establishment, and the establishment always oppresses those who aren't in the establishment. Their best interest is keeping themselves in power, and they'll do anything to keep themselves especially to get rid of democracy to keep themselves in power. And big tech is one of those ways. They censor people like in the COVID lab leak theories, where in 2020, people, highly scientific doctors were discovering if COVID came from a lab, and big tech censored that because it wasn't in their best interest. But now in 2021, Biden decides to reopen the investigation, and all of a sudden it's okay to have these theories again. These big tech censorships are the biggest threat to our democracy because, one, they're anti-democratic by nature. It doesn't let the replace market of ideas sprout or whatever. And only with the ideas clashing can we get the best interpretation of democracy. If we don't let our ideas and communications out there, then how do we know which one to vote for if everything's not being said to light? That's what I think the biggest threat to democracy is. It's the establishment wanting to keep its power. As soon as the establishment doesn't like democracy, that's when it's in trouble. I agree.
All right. I'm going to throw it to Pittelli.
Yeah, so I don't think the Republican Party's stand is fascist, but they definitely under Trump have taken a more authoritarian lean, and there is a difference between just an authoritarian and a fascist regime. The Republican electorate, they were ripe towards a move to an authoritarian leader, and we've seen that with Trump. We've seen that through his presidency. We saw it through after his presidency. We still see it in polling. So are they fascist? I would say no. They are not that far gone yet, but they definitely are leaning authoritarian wise. And as far as the most dangerous in the world, I would say no. But again, a danger also implies how much power one has to endanger others. So when you're talking about Spartacus mentioned ISIS. ISIS is obviously more vile and awful, but are they in a position with as much power as the GOP? No, because the GOP is the second largest party or the first largest party in the most powerful country in the world. So danger also implies how much you can actually put others in danger. But I would still say no, they're not the most dangerous just because they haven't fully gone fasci yet, but they are authoritarian under Trump by quite a bit.
Okay, I will come back to you later. Wick.
Okay, so yes, this article I feel was dumb, and I'm not going to mince words. It was a dumb article. Now it points out some real threats that the Republican, as Pittelli mentioned, they're having a more authoritarian kind of arc right now. They're implementing or trying to implement anti-democratic policies, but to pretend somehow that they are the worst threat facing the world when we have so many other threats, we have so many other problems, to pretend and to act like this is somehow the greatest threat to mankind is asinine. It's silly. It's dumb, and it makes anyone who like believes it dumb. I felt dumber just reading the article. You cannot pretend things like this. The greatest threat to the world right now is probably affluence. Is probably overconsumption, and we're killing our environment. Another huge threat that is facing the world right now, and especially America, is overpolarization. And this article directly contributes to it. When you have when you cannot talk to the other side without calling them a fascist or say that they're trying to kill everyone. Oh look, and go into this childish rhetoric that it prevents us from talking to each other. And when you stop talking, the only response you have is threats, violence, and nothing gets done. So that's the article is dumb. No other way to say it.
Okay.
Wait.
All right. Can I go?
Did
Sorry,
I forget anyone? I knew. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Do you want Viv to do her opening first, or?
No. Sorry. Never mind. I was out of it for a second. Viv, go ahead.
I don't mind either way. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting, Wick. I was just I was testing my mic.
It's fine.
Shit. Yeah. No. I mean, it's difficult to work out which kind of angle to come at this from. I mean, I don't think right now the Republican Party are the greatest threat in the world. I think they could potentially end up manifesting into the greatest threat to the world eventually. I think we really have to look at trends, right? So some almost 30% of the Republican voter base believes in the central tenet of the QAnon conspiracy theory, right? That's really fucking creepy. The central tenet being that, you know, there's a secret cabal of elites trafficking children that are in control of the world government, etc. Right? Like literal fucking neo-Nazi shit, right? This is just repackaged blood libel. It's spooky that like 30% of the base believes that. That's not saying 30% of the base are actual neo-Nazis. It's just that they, you know, happen to believe in a conspiracy theory that is very neo-Nazi oriented. And if we look at the 2020 election, I think there were 20-something candidates for the 2020 election, right? Congressional candidates that had expressed some support for QAnon. Of those, 2 of those made it into the highest office, and I think a further 6 or so got into local legislatures. Right, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert in the halls of Congress right now, and a decent amount in local state legislatures. And already for 2022, we have I think it's up to like 34 or something. I haven't checked recently. But 34 candidates that have expressed QAnon sympathies running for office. Now, I think we won't be able to tell fully which way the wind is blowing until those 22 elections. I think that those are, that's going to be a pretty pivotal point for us to be able to assess the direction that GOP is going in regards to embracing this kind of like batshit crazy conspiracism. I think they're leaning towards it. I think there's a significant amount of senators who are quite happy paying lip service to it. I think the conservative media has pretty much bought into a lot of the stuff and is helping to promote it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a significant amount of them get in, but I would be really, really happy to be wrong. Okay. The problem with this is if you get enough of those people in government, then they start being able to influence policy in a major way, right? One Marjorie Taylor Greene, spooky, fucked up, but ultimately not going to be able to do an awful lot, right? 20, 30, 40 Marjorie Taylor Greenes, now you're really fucking spooked, right? Because you've got people who believe that like Jewish space lasers are responsible for California wildfires. And not only do they believe that, you have people like General Michael Flynn who are literally calling for like a military coup of the government, right? The overthrow of democracy, which I think, regardless of your views on whether or not like QAnon is a fascist conspiracy theory, it is. But if you don't believe me on that, you would be worried about like the overthrow of democracy through a military coup, I think. And if you get enough people in Congress who want that kind of thing, it can happen, you know? So I don't think right now, but I think we're on a very, very dangerous path. And I think 2022 will be a good time for us to assess just how quickly we're moving down that path, if at all.
All right, and I'm going to pray to Hardwood and Sun.
All right, so I don't think the Republican Party is necessarily fascist. You know, I did look up like the 14, you know, like the 14 characteristics of fascism, right? And you can apply some of them to both sides, both the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. So it's kind of like, well, if we're going to call the Republican Party fascist, then, well, we better call the Democrat Party, you know, fascist as well. So it's kind of like, you know, I don't think they're the biggest threat to society, you know, at all. I think that some of the Republican, you know, House of Reps, representatives are, like, do have damaging rhetoric and kind of do have authoritarian, you know, leanings, which I think we need to kind of expel from the Republican Party. You know, but I also agree with Wick, like, the article was just very, very dumb, and it doesn't help with the hyperpolarization that our society currently has. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
So, everybody?
All right. I think that is.
So
yeah,
14, the 14 points that you're talking about, I assume, are from Umberto Eco's essay on Earth fascism. They are 14 characteristics that are commonly observed in fascist governments of the past, right? So like Mussolini, Hitler. I forget which ones he analysed there, but I think it was like Mussolini, Franco, Hitler, right? And so it's not a checklist to go down and go, oh, well, have you expressed these attributes, then we can call you a fascist. It's an analysis of how fascism tends to be built and how it comes into being, right? I don't rely on that for a definition of fascism. I think a very simple definition of fascism is palingenetic ultranationalism with a focus on purifying the peoples that it protects, right? The in-group, which I refer to as the Volk for obvious reasons, of undesirable traits based on immutable characteristics and sometimes religious sensibilities, if we're talking in the case of ISIS or whatever. So I think that's a really, really simple and easy definition for a lot of people to follow. I think the only thing people get a little bit confused over is the palingenetic, right? The palingenetic myth. And the palingenetic myth is something that's common to pretty much all fascist movements, is the idea that there was some sort of golden age before that we need to return to. The idea that like society has fallen, is degenerating through the things that we're doing. And then of course that need for the purification of the vault to bring about a new golden age, right? That is like it was before at some point. So that's the only bit I feel that really needs explaining from that definition. But yeah, I would say that that's a much better definition than Umberto Eco's 14 points go down the checklist, or does it? It's a really silly way of kind of looking at things, because we're talking about a form of political behavior rather than something that you can just check off.
I just want to say that it's important to kind of keep an eye out, be observant, to be wary and to be watchful, because there's always a chance, as Vivian says, that there can be indicators that a party or a group of individuals, in power, are heading down a route or a route, I don't know how else I can say it, that might end up in a very fascist and very kind of bad outcomes might come from that. But it doesn't help when you simply throw around this term, fascism, loosely, like everything you don't like is fascism, and it's really lost its meaning in modern discourse, I feel, and I think that's
I don't care about it losing its meaning, right? Like if we look at the academic, if we look at the academic understanding from like the vast majority of scholars, I think that my definition fits pretty well, right? We can talk about
I'm not saying it doesn't.
the characteristics of a fascist.
But using it in an article that's not an academic article, this isn't scholarly.
Okay. I'm not trying to. I'm saying that I think that we can apply this definition to the GOP, and we can see where it does kind of apply, right?
I would like to
so
point
if we
out,
talk about like the palingenetic myth, that's fucking obvious that the GOP follows that. If we talk about being anti-democratic, I think we could have a decent conversation about that. But I think we would understand that like the 2020 election is definitely sort of like a watershed moment in just how undemocratic, anti-democratic the GOP are willing to be to retain power, right? Ultranationalism, don't think we need to argue about that. That's pretty fucking obvious. And then the desire to like purify the bulk of undesirable characteristics. I think we've seen quite a lot of that from the GOP in terms of like attempting to disenfranchise black people, doing this dumb fuck culture war shit around critical race theory right now, the sweeping legislation against trans people. I have enough fucking examples of the GOP trying to essentially purge or suppress people because of their immutable characteristics, because they are not pure enough for the American nation that they revere so much. So I don't think that it's flippant to like throw out the word fascist when we're talking about the GOP.
Well, when we talk about
saying that the GOP
ultranationalism,
expresses
for
alarmingly
example,
fascist behavior, I think that is a reasonable fear.
So I'd like to point out that there's people that are close to fascism on both sides. This isn't just a GOP thing, and to say it's just a GOP thing is quite disingenuous. Antifa is one of the most fascist organizations we have inside of America. Because Antifa is quite literally the definition of fascism. If you don't agree with me, then you might as well be dead.
So,
And
no. Don't fucking
Back
add on. Why?
no, so I
What
mean, so I
traits do they
I just
express?
pointed out. So I'm going to continue with what
What
I'm saying.
traits do they
So
express?
there's
What
close to
behaviors do
fascist
they
on both.
engage
I
in
mean,
that are fascist?
this is amazing because I didn't interrupt you and continue interrupting you when I
Well, you
realized you were
made a
still
claim
talking.
that it's like
I mean,
wrong.
it's just cool. I mean, you
Okay,
made claims that were wrong too, but did I
You
sit here and
don't want
interrupt
to. You
you?
don't want to support your claims.
I mean,
Don't
no,
support them,
I'm
that's
just cool.
fine.
I mean, I'd like moderation to come in.
Go ahead, Vivian.
All right, thank you very much. So with that being said, I think there's fascists on both sides, and or at least close to fascist on both sides. We can talk about Antifa. We can talk about big tech censoring of the right. We can talk about pretty much anything we want to. It's on both sides. But to make the jump from here to there to say that the Republicans are the most dangerous threat to the world, which I think was lost by a couple people that started saying the most dangerous threat to democracy. It's not just to the democracy; it was to the world. That was the claim. And I think the CCP or Russia is a much bigger threat to the world than Republicans will ever be. And that's just where I'll stand. I mean, you can question me now that I'm done talking, but
Okay,
after having
cool.
a monologue,
So-
it's kind of funny to interrupt somebody else.
Okay, cool. So the reason I had a monologue is because I think it's really, really important when we accuse somebody of being fascist or holding fascist beliefs or expressing fascist behavior to support that claim with evidence, right? So I was running through the behaviors, right, and the beliefs that Republicans express that I think make it appropriate to make the statement that the GOP has expressed alarmingly fascist behavior in recent times, right? So when you say that Antifa is the very definition of fascist,
I didn't say that.
what? No, that's
You did.
Yeah,
You did say
those
that.
were
I didn't
your-
say no. I know. I
those
did not
were
say
your
it was a definition. I
actual
did not say
words.
Antifa was definition of fascist. Wig. And if people want to go
You
back and watch the
don't-
VOD,
You
that
can
is not what I
rewind
said.
it. Let this
That's not what I
quoted
said.
you-
Go watch
I
the VOD.
quoted
Go
you
watch the VOD. I
verbatim.
did not say it was a definition of fascist.
Okay, I
He
quoted
just said
you
it falls
verbatim, but
under
it
the
doesn't.
category of fascism. He didn't say
But
it was
it doesn't.
the
It doesn't.
definition of
It doesn't matter. I think everybody on this panel would recognize that you made the claim that Antifa were fascist, right? So I would like to ask you, what traits and behaviors do you think that anti-fascists engage in that mean that they are fascist?
Antifa would rather have people dead if they don't believe in what they believe. If you don't believe in their espoused beliefs, they'd rather have you dead. That is what I would consider fascist about Antifa.
So how many murders have Antifa committed exactly?
That would be hard to
It
count.
doesn't have to be.
I mean, I can
Wait,
look it up, but
what
that'd be hard to count.
Yeah, burning
Like
down
during
buildings
World
like
War
that,
II.
Antifa doesn't matter. They're not a political party. We're talking about the GOP. Like,
It's an ideology, right?
right, but we're talking about the GOP. They are literally in. They are the one of the biggest groups.
Okay, one at a time, please.
This is
So,
important
Cliff, go
information.
ahead and Pittelli after.
Is it? What did you say?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Pittelli after.
Yeah, the question didn't. Just real quick, the question didn't say like what political party is the biggest threat to democracy. The question just said what is the biggest threat to democracy. So it's totally valid for Spartacus to bring up like Antifa as a threat to democracy, and also he's not saying it's the biggest threat. He's just saying it is fascist. And if you guys want to go down that road, I would love to hear the conversation. But it's totally valid to say for Spartacus to say that like Antifa
No,
is fascist.
it's not
I'm
without
glad that
providing
if you
evidence
don't
or reasoning.
Sorry.
for that.
if you don't believe in what they say, they like burn down your building. They like do like arsonist things. And to what Lyra said, I don't think you have to explicitly kill people, even though I do think there's like body count cities riots. I don't think you have to explicitly kill people to be anti-democratic. So those are I don't have a strong position on this though.
The
So
reason I said that is because Sprout was talking about how they want to kill, and Antifa wants to kill anyone who disagrees with them.
Okay,
I said they would rather have them dead.
Pittelli,
Okay,
go
all
ahead.
right.
Okay,
Fair enough. I don't know why we're talking about
the question was
Because
listen.
the
Pittelli,
right
no.
ones to-
I'm sorry. Pittelli, go ahead.
that it is the case because the question reads: has the Republican Party turned fascist? Is it now the most dangerous threat in the world? Is it? It is referring to the Republican Party. So Antifa has nothing to do with this conversation. Bringing it up is a complete red herring. Has nothing to do with what we're talking about. And one of the key components of fascism, or the tenets as well, is that physical harm, force, is a legitimate part of politics. That is one of the key things that you see a lot of fascist regimes, if you look back to Mussolini, if you look back to the Nazis, that physical harm is a legitimate part of politics. You have the black shirts, you have the Nazi stormtroopers, and then it's not entirely the same thing, but you just had the president of the United States egg on an insurrection with violence, call them like, he used like some sort of endearing term when he was talking about them, telling them to go home and they're patriots, I think he called them. When he's seen them attack the Capitol building, build gallows out front, chant "Hang Mike Pence," and he is in a way endorsing physical harm as a legitimate part of politics. And he was just the president of the GOP.
Pittelli, you can call it a red herring if you want to call it a red herring. I'm sorry.
All right, Sprouticus, I'm going to let you respond after that.
Okay. So you can. I did not say that. So you can continue to say that. I didn't say that it was a definition of fascism.
We've
so
got it
with that
fucking
being
clipped.
said,
you should watch that clip.
Okay. Well, you know what? All right, I'm gonna continue. Besides the distraction there. So it's not a red herring. In fact, we're talking about the Republican Party, and we're talking about how has the Republican Party become fascist, and is it the most dangerous? Threat to the world? And what I was stating, Pittelli, if you want me to restate what I was stating, that way you have a deeper understanding of it, is that I was saying no, and I was saying if we're going to talk about fascism in America, as in the Republican parties in America, right, which is what this was written about, was the Republican Party in America. If we're going to talk about that, there are people that are close to fascist on both sides, which is what I stated. That was stated. Go back, watch the VOD. With that being said, I brought up Antifa as an example of fascism on the left.
That's the literal definition of fascism.
I did. Are you done? I'm just curious.
I mean, that's what you said, right?
I mean, are you done?
The
Are you
literal
done?
definition of fascism.
No, it's okay. I'll wait. I'll wait till you're done. We'll just waste time.
Oh, okay. I mean, if you want to take a step back, that's perfectly reasonable, because I don't think you actually know what the definition of fascism is, which is why I pressed you on it. I don't think you're in a place to evaluate whether or not the GOP is fascist and how much of a threat they pose, because you can't tell me what the definition of fascism is. You think fascism is sectarian violence. Sectarian violence erupts among like many different groups, many of which I wouldn't call fascist. Right? Fascism is a specific form of political behavior that comes with an ideology. Okay, and I explained what I think is a really good definition of fascism. Now you can give me an alternate definition. We can discuss that maybe. Right? I don't think you have a good definition. You're like fascism when somebody like doesn't agree with me. Like fuck off. That's nonsense, mate. That's not fascism.
So ignoring Vivian, I'm gonna continue to take my time. So ignoring Vivian because she decided to rudely interrupt when I was talking. I'm gonna resume my time. Okay, you done? I'll wait. You're done?
No.
Can you mute her then? What are you gonna do, Mr. Geek? Because it continues to happen.
I mean, if you're not going to engage,
finish your point and
okay. I'd like to finish my point uninterrupted by a different panelist. With that being said, I brought up Antifa as a point on the left, Pittelli. So I was saying that there's people who are close to fascists on both sides, and I brought up Antifa on the left. Now the VOD that Vivian so lovely clipped, and I said that Antifa would rather have people dead that don't agree with them, and then I went on to say which is the literal definition of fascism. I did not say that Antifa was the literal definition of fascism. I said Antifa was fascist. It would be insane for me to take a group and say they're the literal definition, because then that would mean that I have to look it up in the dictionary and the definition be Antifa, right? So if we look at what I said in the spot that I said it within the context, instead of ripping it out of context, we could discuss what happened and why I said that. But that's what happened, and I'll yield there.
Okay, but you did say that.
Wait, go ahead.
I honestly, this is devolving into yes, huh, nuh-uh, and I want to get past that a little bit, and I want to talk about like.
We have the clip though, Wick. Why is he lying?
I agree with you. I just don't. He's not going to change his mind. We're not going to persuade him. Let's just move on. Let's get to something else. Let's move the topic forward a little bit.
How can we move it forward if people don't understand what the definition of fascism is? Like, surely we need to define fascism before we can answer the question, is the GOP...
Can we go around and ask everyone their definition of fascism? See if we're on the same page?
Yeah. Well, we don't need to.
Alright.
Most of you guys agree. Yeah. Yeah, we can go now. I think that'll be nice.
Let's continue. The reason why I think that this is such a bad discussion, it's a bad topic, and no offense to whoever chose the topic, but this is a bad topic because it throws out this word that, as Vivian so wisely pointed out, how can we have this discussion if we all have our own proprietary definition of what fascism is? And no one really understands each other. No one really understands what the other person is trying to say or trying to mean. So let's talk about if the Republican Party is the greatest threat to the world. I'd like to kind of move it on to that thing. Now we can talk about the democratic system that we have in America and how that the Republicans are putting forth legislation in many states that are anti-democratic in nature. I think that is a really big concern. That is something we have to address, and we have to look at it, and we have to see what kind of knockoff effects this is going to have in the future. And we can attack it there. We don't need to bring fascism into discussion at all to attack this point. And I think that the reason they're trying to put forth this legislation because, quite simply, it will help them retain power. But it is anti-democratic, and that is bad, and we need to stop it. We need to let people know what is going on, explain why it is bad, and get through it that way. It's not helpful to start name calling. It's not helpful to say, not only are they anti-democratic, but they're also doing it because they're evil racists. I don't think that's helpful at all because people put their back up. People think, well, no, I'm not that. That's not what I want here. In a lot of cases, the Republican Party, these people have been lied to. These people have been lied to. They have believed false information. They have been miseducated. And their intention is not what we ascribe to it. So if we ever want to move past this, we have to stop ascribing this intention to people that we've never met, we don't know. And we could just say, hey, your policy is going to be harmful. Here's why. That's all I want to say.
So I completely disagree because what you're describing, the phenomena of people being unable to define fascism, even though it's been a threat in the world consistently, right, since the early 20th century at least, okay, is a direct function of fascists attempting to muddy the waters. And I think educating people on what fascism is, what it looks like, how it forms, etc., is extremely fucking important, especially when we're seeing the rise of it in multiple countries throughout Europe and the United States. Well, I think a panel like this is the place to show that certain people who want to call things fascist don't actually have a fucking clue what they're talking about, and in fact that this phenomenon does not exist purely on the left, but it's actually much more prevalent on the right, because the right has a much more incentive, right, to muddy the waters when it comes to fascism because it spends so much time shaking hands with it. Right? So when Sprouticus says Antifa is fascist, what he's doing is he's giving cover to actual fucking fascists who are on his side, who he chills with. People like fucking Ankar, who spends time...
I don't chill with Ankar. Actually, if you ask Ankar, we're not friends. So, with that being said, January 17th, 2014, before the death... we didn't break up. I was never friends with Ankar. But February 17th, 2014... we're going to look at what Merriam-Webster says before then, because this is before Trump's presidency, when the common definition was changed to Merriam-Webster. It says a way of organizing society in which a government ruled by a dictator controls the lives of people, in which people are not allowed to disagree with the government. And that would be
that was a terrible definition in 2014, and it's a terrible definition now. I don't know what the Merriam-Webster definition says now, but even whatever it says now, I would be very, very fucking surprised if it was able to define it particularly succinctly or well. The Merriam-Webster definition of a political ideology is usually not a good way of understanding that political ideology and what it actually is.
So what it says now is a political philosophy, movement, or regime such as that of the fascisti that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. Okay. It's the definition it says now. Yeah, which was the common definition was weirdly changed. The common definition was weirdly changed when during Donald Trump when he won the presidency. It was weirdly changed.
Okay, but I don't agree with either of those definitions, right?
That's fine. You don't have to agree with the dictionary.
Yeah, I do disagree with the dictionary. On regular fucking occasions, we recognize that the dictionary definition is not sufficient to cover the nuances and intricacies of particularly complicated topics like political ideologies or philosophies. Okay, we recognize that. Okay, so
Like I said, feel
that's
free to
fine.
disagree with the dictionary. That's fine.
Yeah, I would say as well,
Wait,
something as
do you really think
an
the dictionary is
ideology,
a good place a definition of all kinds of political philosophies?
something as deep as fascism. You can't just look up the definition in Merriam-Webster and get the whole totality of what it actually means and what it actually looks like in the real world. I mean, some of the in the beginning with Mussolini, what the Italians used to chant was everything for the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. So it's very subordinate to the state. It's like Vivian said, it's you conform to the state, and that's in a way what makes it nationalistic as well. You also scapegoat some type of people. In this instance, in the most recent instance, we can point to the GOP, and you see Trump scapegoating immigrants time and time and time again. Another one is that it's staunchly anti-democratic, staunchly anti-democratic, and then another one is as Vivian said before as well, the fascist leader is trying to purify the group. So the group as a whole, you conform to it. He purifies it. They pick somebody or some group to scapegoat. With the Nazis, it was the Jews. With Trump, it was immigration. And you can't just look these things up in a dictionary and all of a sudden have a clear understanding, because that definition to me sounds more just like totalitarianism. It sounds like a complete and total.
That definition is better than the old definition.
The definition that Sprouticus read just sounds like totalitarianism to me, which is the government controls.
Tell me when Trump scapegoated immigrants.
Tell me when Trump scapegoated immigrants.
His
His whole shtick was scapegoating immigrants. His whole thing was scapegoating immigrants.
Points, and we'll
What do you think
discuss
he was
when
building
we're
a
done
wall
with
against?
scapegoating immigrants.
Mexican
For
food?
for
No,
what?
he was building a wall against immigrants. That was his whole. That was his.
He
whole
was
deal.
building a wall to
That
enforce
party,
border
they chanted
security.
it at his rally.
No, you cannot jump. You're not going to tell me that the border wall was about fucking border security, dude.
Yes, it was
Come
about
on.
border security.
There's no. You really think the border wall is stopping any illegal immigration? Come on.
It's actually bringing
Okay,
it
but
down
why?
by a
Okay,
large
but why?
amount.
Why was Trump so concerned?
Why are
Why
other
was
countries
Trump
building
so
walls around their
concerned?
borders?
Sprouticus finish after that, Vivian.
Okay, so why are other countries building walls around their borders when they have an illegal immigration problem? Not an immigration problem, an illegal immigration problem. We are a country of laws. We stick by these laws. We can't just allow people to come in, break the laws, and decide they're just going to stay here. Building a wall is. There's many countries that have done it, and it's not just us that have done it. So to say that it's just us that have done it, we're scapegoating the immigrants. It's insane to say. It slows down illegal immigration. It doesn't stop it. The goal was never to stop it, but if you actually go talk to Border Patrol agents, like I have, they actually say that the border wall helps because it does slow it down. It makes it harder for them to get over, so they can't just rush past Border Patrol agents, and Border Patrol agents are able to grab these people who are just rushing the border and are able to actually stop it before it actually gets into the States and they just get lost inside of America. So that is not scapegoating immigrants by building a wall. I'm sorry.
Okay, but you wanted to build the wall because you were saying that like immigrants presented like certain problems to Americans, right?
He said the Mexican judge couldn't do his job correctly because he was Mexican, even though he's Mexican American. Like,
No, well, that's actually not true. He was actually like
no,
it
it,
was, like, more
no. It is true. It is true. And he also and the biggest driver of his whole thing was that immigrants are coming here and taking your jobs. He was using Mexican immigrants, saying that this is why in the Rust Belt you have fallen on hard times, because brown people from Mexico are coming here and taking your jobs, and the elites have let it happen. That was like his whole thing when he was going on and on about it. If you're gonna deny this, you were asleep at the last 4 years, or you're just lying to me.
All right, but
people
he
just
made
the fact that Trump had anti-immigration, his ethos was anti-immigration, and he was very harsh on immigration. That was his ethos. Like, none of us are going to deny that. But
Well,
what was the specific?
he was very harsh on illegal immigration. He wasn't harsh on immigration. He was harsh on illegal immigration. There's a huge difference between the two.
Well, I don't know. He did try and ban
He was
immigration.
also saying that
He tried to ban immigration from several countries, right? Not just illegal immigration. He tried to ban straight up immigration from
So he barred
a large majority of Muslim
immigration.
countries.
He barred immigration from certain countries when there was a threat of terrorists coming to the country. Yes, just like he barred people coming from China or coming from Europe.
So why didn't he bar
COVID,
people from Saudi Arabia?
Because we work with the Saudi Arabian government.
This
Right.
mental gymnastics.
Like,
trying out for the
so you're
Olympics,
allied with
Olympics,
Saudi Arabia.
Yes, we're allies with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, we're allies with
Like,
Saudi Arabia.
To act
And no
as if
Saudi
Trump did not use
no Saudis have been involved in terrorism on
Yep.
U.S. soil.
Wait, it doesn't
Saudis have been involved.
Yeah.
So
Like,
if you're trying to
Since then, we furthered the relationship. Okay, so since then we've
and
referred
not just to restrict, and if you're trying to restrict terrorism and not just trying to restrict Muslims, or more accurately, throwing red meat to your base and saying how we're going to keep the muzzies out, right?
That is not
Like,
what happened.
That's
Get the
basically
fuck outta
what the
here with
policy
that,
was
dude.
for. So, if what you're trying to do is stop terrorism and not just throw red meat to your base, right? Then you would be trying to ban travel from Saudi Arabia, right?
No, Saudis
Because-
are allies. We already discussed this.
Okay, but Saudis have financed terrorism on U.S. soil. In
Sure,
fact,
and we're okay
some-
with that.
you're okay
They're
with
our
that.
allies.
You're okay with
Well,
that?
no, I'm saying.
Wait,
no,
wait,
no,
Okay, well,
I'm saying
fine.
we are
I mean,
at-
no, that's fine. I mean, obviously, so you accept, right, that like trying to stop terrorism is not the purpose of these of his attempted
No, it is.
Muslim
We furthered
ban,
our relationship. We furthered our relationship with Saudi Arabia since then. That definitely put a dent in our relationship with Saudi Arabia, and we furthered our relationship since then. And with that being said, we've then now moved on to there is a threat of terrorism coming from these nations, because we've seen it happen in Europe, we've seen it happen in the United Kingdom of all places, and now we're not going to let it happen here. We're seeing this happen in other places. We're not going to let it happen here. Same reason Donald Trump barred people from coming from China over to the United States because of COVID, and then later barred Europe from coming over to the United States because of COVID. This wasn't because actually, as a matter of fact, Nancy Pelosi called Donald Trump a xenophobe, and then went into Chinatown and danced around saying there's nothing to be scared of. Look, I'm going to sit here and dance in Chinatown. This is the argument that's brought up anytime there's a travel ban or an immigration ban that also isn't permanent, right? It was temporary. So with that being said, this is what happens every time. Oh, you're scared of bringing Muslims here. Oh, you're scared of the Chinese. Oh, you're scared of this. Oh, you're scared of that. You just don't want the Muslims here. You don't want the Chinese here. This is what happens every time. Is names get thrown because people don't understand the intricacies of foreign policy, and the names get thrown.
So
Okay,
look,
I just want to.
wait, because this is really important. Okay,
I'm
like,
afraid to
I-
go
the-
after we. Sorry, go ahead, Vivian.
yeah, okay. So we've got some helpful people in our chat, like pulling up some quotes here from Trump and stuff. In an interview, Trump literally stated, in fact, that he wanted to keep Muslims specifically out of the United States. The reporter asked him, Donald, a customs agent would then ask a person their religion. Trump, they would say, are you Muslim, Geist? And if they said yes, they would not be allowed into the country. Trump, that's correct, right? So yes, Trump was trying to stop Muslims specifically from entering the country.
Because it was Muslim terrorism, right? That was happening in the UK. It was Muslim
So,
terrorism.
so Muslims.
Okay,
I just want you
It
to
wasn't.
admit that
It wasn't
you're
Christian
backtracking
terrorism,
on
was
what
it?
you just
There's
said.
been Christian terrorism, but it wasn't Christian terrorism at the time, right? So if we're going to talk about this, we need to talk about it within the stance, right?
No, but you're
What's alright,
backtracking.
quick,
You're
go
I'm
ahead.
backtracking.
I'd like to
I'm not
ask-
backtracking.
I'm
I'm not
sorry.
I have
backtracking.
very
It's ridiculous.
serious
I'm not
ideas
backtracking.
about this topic.
You literally just said it wasn't about banning Muslims, and now you're justifying.
It's
it
because
being
of
about
where.
banning
It's
Muslims.
because of what
I'm
countries
going
the
to
Muslim
mute
terrorists
people.
were coming
I'm sorry.
from.
I'm going to mute people.
You don't have the guts to
Wait,
keep
go
going.
ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. It's hard to. It's this constant like changing of our position. So the main thrust of the topic is that Trump was using immigration, specifically illegal immigration, as a way to fire up his base, to point to the other, to say, look, this is a problem. This is the cause of all your problems. This is an issue. This is a source of your issues. You're feeling an economic strain. It's because of immigration, illegal immigrants specifically. Drugs coming into the country, the opioid crisis, illegal immigration. He used this as a way to point out, like, is a way to try to get people fired up, to provide an enemy to fight against and vote for me because I'm going to oppose this. This is what he did. And we know this because of the vast majority of statements he has made. It's not just one policy. It's not just one statement, but it's an overwhelming preponderance of evidence that I'm not going to take the time to Google for you. You can do that on your own. This exercise for the reader that you can look up and see that time and time again he has used the threat of illegal immigration to fire up his base, to generate votes, and this has caused a lot of animosity towards this group from Republicans and from Trump voters. Not all of them, but quite a significant size.
I have a question for you. Yeah. Let me ask you. Is there a difference between your mind between pointing out a problem and pointing out its symptoms and scapegoating? Is there any difference?
Give me an example.
Yeah, it's who you blame for the problem.
Yeah. No, wait, Vivian, I didn't ask you. Okay. If I point out a problem and say so immigration from third world countries lowers wages of like natives in our country. Say that's the case, right? We don't have to actually say about that. Would that be scapegoating or would that be pointing out a problem?
Depends on how you do it. It's not. In a lot of cases, it's not how you say it. It's not what you say. It's how you say it and how you go about pointing out an issue. I can disagree with someone and be very, very cordial. I could say, hey, cut sleeve, I think you're wrong. I think you're misinformed here. Or I could say, hey, cut sleeve, you're stupid. There's a difference in how I point these things out. And so when we talk about immigration, and we could talk about that there are illegal immigration, we could have a discussion that's honest, that's in good faith about what are the problems with illegal immigration? How can we solve this? But we cannot do that when you're calling people murderers and rapists, when you're saying these people are coming in specifically to steal your jobs and things like that, when that is a specific example of scapegoating, harmful scapegoating, negative stereotyping, and it's just not true in a lot of cases.
Is MS-13 a problem at the southern border? Is MS-13 a problem at the southern border? I got that's correct towards you, Wick. Is MS-13 a problem at the southern border?
The cartel.
Yeah, the cartel is definitely a problem, of course.
Okay, so do you think they murder? Do you think they murder white people?
Are they coming in and
Vivian, I'm asking Wick. I'm asking Wick.
I'm asking Wick. There's more than one person.
Also, I have an extra point to add.
It's a stupid fucking point. MS-13 coming in and stealing jobs from hard-working Appalachians.
No. So that's not where I was going with that. But thanks, Viv. I appreciate it.
Well, it's fucking pointless. You're talking shit then,
shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up for 5 seconds. Dear God.
Stop talking shit for 5 seconds. I won't have to talk.
I'm ignoring you. Wick. So, Wick, do you think MS-13 murders and rapes people?
You know what? I'll stipulate to that. I don't have data. But sure, okay. If a gang murders and rapes people, they're bad and they should be opposed. Yes.
Okay, so they should be opposed. They shouldn't be allowed to just walk across the border.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so yeah, that's what Trump was talking about when he said that they're coming over here to murder and rape people. He was specifically referring to the cartel MS-13.
Yeah. Again, the way he did that and how he portrayed things was very clearly not just them. He made it broad. He used broad generalizations. It was very clear to those watching that was not his only thing. He was pointing out that all Mexicans are MS-13. When
Trump went on and on. Trump went on and on about how Mexico's not sending their best people. How Mexico is sending the murderers and the drug dealers. And that was his whole point, is he wasn't just specifically referring to MS-13. He was basically calling all Mexican immigrants part of MS-13. That's what we're taking issue with here.
He actually went on to say that some of these people are probably good people, and so like so yeah, he
Let me
actually
give you an example.
give me 1 second. In that same statement, he said that some of these are probably good people because you're also crossing the border illegally, right? So you have to assume they're okay with crime. But yeah, so with that being no, I'm still talking. Please give me 1 second. With that being said, I'd also like to bring up the part where MS-13 does do that, right? So that is a concern that we should have. And Mexico is completely fine of not taking care of MS-13. Mexico doesn't care that MS-13 consistently does this and human traffics people into the country, or that they're coming over into our country, invading our country, murdering or raping people. That's not a concern. And so that was a lot of what he was talking about.
It's obviously a concern. Can I just ask you one question, Sprout?
Can I just give an example real quick? The what you said is bullshit, and let me tell you why. I can go and I can say, hey, Sprouticus, your takes this panel have been bullshit. I think you're a terrible person. I think you do terrible things. I think that you've been a terrible guest. I think you've been interrupting. I think you've been on bad faith. Oh, but sometimes you do nice things. Does that make you feel better that I added, oh, but sometimes you do nice things?
He's talking about different people.
Does that change what I'm saying here? Does that change the thrust of my statement? Of course not. You can't just say, oh, but not all Mexicans.
So he's talking about different people, right? So he's specifically referring to in the first part MS-13 and cartels of the like, and with that he's then separating and saying, yes, there are good people that come from Mexico. This MS-13 isn't the only.
Scapegoat is I'll drop this because you haven't had the chance to speak, but you're specifically outlining that the difference between scapegoating and pointing out the problem is rhetoric, and specifically inflammatory rhetoric. But then that goes back to Sprouticus' point, because remember this debate is about anti-fascism, or this debate is about fascists. So when he goes to say anti-fascists are actually fascists, their rhetoric leads you to believe that they're scapegoating other people.
Can we not go back to that topic?
Oh, wait. Wait. That's the question.
All sorts of things to avoid going back.
No, it's very stupid. It's
Oh, wait,
very
okay,
vacuous.
Do
all conservatives just get given toys that are painted with lead when they're kids? Is that what happens?
I want to specifically isolate the fact that anti-fascists, Antifa, use inflammatory rhetoric when they're talking about things like police, Proud Boys, Republicans. Do you deny any of these things?
God forbid we say mean things about the fascist street thugs.
What does that have to do
Okay,
with the subject? What does it have to do with whether or not Trump used inflammatory rhetoric to throw red meat to his base and scapegoated illegal immigration? What does that have to do with it?
Nothing. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it.
I want to let Cuisine respond, and after that I want to throw it to Hardwood and Suck, who has been waiting patiently. Alright, Cuisine, respond after that, Hardwood and Suck.
Here's what it has to be, right? And Vivian brings up the point like, oh, we're mean to people who do these terrorist actions, but then you just did like the layup for Sprouticus because Trump is specifically talking about MS-13, people who do terrorist actions, people who like rape and murder people. God forbid we're mean to them. So like anything you can say just goes back to the other side. And then Witt says, what does this have to do with the conversation? Remember Sprouticus' original...
What's the difference between the Proud Boys and all
Remember Sprouticus' original point. The Sprouticus' original point was not denying that there are some Republican crazies out there. He said that they were on both sides. He never...
Have I ever denied the left has its loonies? The left has its loonies. There are some people who are crazy on the left. I'll agree with that.
The difference is we didn't elect our guy to the Oval Office. Like, if you don't see that difference, then I don't know what we're doing here. And secondly, the other, if we're gonna keep going back up on this scapegoating thing, a few other tenets of fascism. Another one is staunchly anti-democratic. And I don't think anyone can deny the way Trump acted before and after the election was very anti-democratic. And another one is
whereas Antifa are very pro-democracy.
Hardwood, go ahead.
Not at all.
No, they are completely.
I'm muting everyone else.
No, it's cool. I don't care. I'm just sitting back and enjoying everyone yelling at each other. It's really comical about Trump statements from like 4 years ago. But I actually have a question for Binks. Do you think George Bush was a fascist? You know, like I really want to get his back topic here. You know, like what are your thoughts on George Bush? Was he a fascist?
George Bush, he was a guy you could have a beer with. You know what I mean? He was salt of the earth.
Oh yeah, no, but guys, we're getting too focused up on like these little trivial things, but like it seems like we all can kind of agree that the Republican Party is not the biggest threat to the entire world, right? So now we're just arguing about what Trump said, what Trump did. Oh, Trump bad, and it's like, guys, he's not in office. He's not on any social media platform. All right, yes, some of his ideas are still prominent. Okay, but I believe
held a rally last night.
Oh,
the GOP just kicked Liz Cheney out of her leadership role because she wouldn't acknowledge reality. He still has tons of sway over the party.
Okay, but was his rally broadcast on social media? Was it broadcast for the broad population? Yes. What social media platform was it broadcast on? Because from what I understand, like Facebook,
Telegram, Facebook.
I didn't see anything on Facebook about it, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, the whole like Trumpian thing is, in my opinion, dying down. All right, from what I've seen anecdotally, right, on my friends list, all right, or like on my Facebook feed, or I don't have a Twitter, so I can't even like judge on that. But I think that some of his ideas are still prominent, but I believe that the number of people that believe that the election was stolen is continually going down. We're beginning to kind of get away from that, and by us like bringing this back up and just keep attacking him and keep bringing him into the forefront, right? We're going to progress those ideas, right?
So I hope you're right. I hope it is dying down. I just don't think it is.
The same. I hope you're right. I just don't see it. He's still the head of all these polls. He's still polling well. He's still holding rally. Who holds rally? He's not even like he's ex-president. He's still holding rallies, and people are showing up chanting "Lock her up." Like he still has massive sway over the party. So we're discussing is whether or not the GOP is fascist. No, I don't think they're fascist. They are authoritarian, and they're leaning further and further authoritarian. And the guy who was just head of the party is an authoritarian. Full stop. So there's definitely still there.
Is fascist though. That's the problem, right?
But
I want to go back to what Vivian was saying, because I think she brought up the best point about this. If you want to look at whether the Republican Party is dangerous right now, how many Republicans believe in QAnon stuff? I think that's what we should be talking about. That's the real danger. Is the QAnon stuff official policy positions of the Republican Party? No, but do a lot of the Republican base believe in that shit? Yes.
What's considered a lot?
I'm gonna ask you a question. What about Q is what about Q is fascist?
The central conspiracy theory. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll shut up. The QAnon expert can sit back, and somebody else can answer the question.
You deal with Cloth all the time. I know this is gonna be an easy dunk for you, but I specifically asked Lyra.
Okay. So I mean, they are basically perpetuating the conspiracy theory that there's a deep state and there's a secret pedophile ring that involves all of the Democratic Party and Hollywood elite. A lot of these QAnon people are advocating for Trump to just take control of the military and like execute these people.
A military coup.
Right? I'd say that's pretty fascist.
Wait.
Yeah, they're calling for a military coup.
Yeah. Execute them all. Put them in campaign.
They're actually talking about a military tribunal, which is actually commonplace when you talk about treasonous acts. If treasonous acts were considered, it's
what treasonous acts were committed?
So, oh my goodness. So, if there's treasonous acts, you go before a military tribunal. That's kind of what happens, especially during times of war. It doesn't matter if you're part of the military, if you're part of the government. You commit a treasonous act during a time of war, you go before a military tribunal.
If the military were to pull up our elected officials and hold a military tribunal to try them for treason and then execute them, that's a coup. That would be a coup.
Okay, if you commit a treasonous act in wartime, you go before a military tribunal.
That's not what they're asking for.
I know America's always involved in the fucking in the forever war and shit, but like, really, are we talking in wartime? Like, I don't think these are the same fucking thing. Like, we have a civilian government that's in control, right, and should be dealing with this kind of shit. But besides that, I just want to say, like, to cut Steve's point, right, and to elaborate on Lyra's point, right, what Lyra was talking about, describing the central conspiracy theory of QAnon, right? This is the blood libel and the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion repackaged for 2021. It's the exact same conspiracy theory that the Nazis used to propagate, all right? About the 13 powerful families, continuous. Why do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on about Rothschild having built this fucking space laser, right? Like, it's the fucking Jews, all right? It's always the fucking Jews. You dig down, and it's always the fucking Jews. So, yeah, I mean, the central tenet of QAnon is that conspiracy theory, which is repackaged blood libel and the protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion.
Got him, guys. Let's pack it up and go home.
Yeah.
No, it's just quiet.
Let's go. Closing statement.
It's just such a stupid conversation.
There's two really stupid people in here, so.
Well, I'm not gonna sit here and say I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is majorly what you went on about. So, I mean, I've got nothing good to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, no, but you said that the QAnon.
I was adding clarification. This isn't a hill I'm gonna die on. This isn't a hill I'm gonna die on. This was just clarification.
Literally justifying.
That was just clarification. Not a hill I'm gonna die on.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I
So
really
you don't support
No, I do not support military tribunals at this point in time. No, I was trying to clarify what was going on.
Geek, can we hear Binks's anecdote? I know he said he had one a while ago, but I really want to hear.
Yeah, Binks, go ahead. Closing statement, you start.
Yeah, I don't have an anecdote. I just wanted to talk. Couldn't talk for a while. I don't know what to say. I wouldn't trust Webster's definition of fascism. I don't even know Webster was alive when fascism was around. Other than that, good conversation, I guess, or something. Thanks for having me.
All right. During closing statement, tell people. This is my last panel. Tell people where they can find you and everything. Hardwood and Fuck.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we answered the topic really early. Is the Republican Party the most dangerous thing in the world? Everyone pretty much agreed no, which is great. And then we got lost in the weeds of specific statements of Trump was saying, not really having any sort of productive conversation. So that was fantastic. I enjoyed it. I just sat back and laughed the whole time, watching everyone just scream at each other. So. But it was great. It was a really good time. In-N-Out is still the best, fast food restaurant. I wish I wasn't on the East Coast so I could have it.
I'm glad you agree with me.
Thank you for having me, Geek. As always, I appreciate it. This was probably the most lively one I've been on so far, which is fun. If anyone wants to follow me, you can find me at twitch.tv/hardwoodandsock. Center right, and I like to have guests on, to have just normal conversations, not necessarily debates. Cool. Thanks for having me, Geek.
Kelsey, go ahead.
So on this topic, okay. So basically, I'm not gonna defend the GOP. I'm not going to defend Marjorie Taylor Greene. I identify as a conservative, not as a Republican. I believe in anti-establishment, and I think the GOP most resembles the establishment. I also think the Democratic Party resembles the establishment. Going back to my opening statement, it's the establishment versus regular people. The biggest threat to democracy in this country, around the world, is the establishment. As soon as they depart and they see that democracy isn't a part of their main goal or disaligns with their practices, they're going to eliminate democracy because they have the majority of the power right now. And I'm not going to defend any person, any public party, even if it's my own party, that does it. But I will point it out on the other side. I will say Democrats also perpetrate this power. And, I assume none of you guys align with the Democratic Party, but they also perpetrate this power. The GOP perpetrates this power. Everyone perpetrates this power. It's us versus them. It's not Republicans versus Democrats. It's us versus the establishment. Again, big tech is a way for them to be anti-democratic. They can censor us. They can say that this is not aligned with our public goals, so we're going to shadow ban you off the internet. This is what they do not only to conservatives, this is what they do to Democrats too. They do this to everyone who threatens their power. So, at the end of the day, it's not Democrat versus Republican again. It's us versus them, and they have the power. They're the threat. You can find me at Discord. My Discord name is my title name. I've never rejected a conversation, so if you want to talk to me, just hit me up.
All right, Vivian.
I'm really sorry for busting your brain, Geek. I came in here because, Dana Bay wanted me to, and I thought it'd be fun with the topics. Unfortunately, we had at least a couple of people who just had no fucking clue about any of the topics, so we had to do a bit of education, which they were rather resistant to, but that's okay. I'm Mixed Vivian Wolf, and I mainly talk about cults and extremism. And you can find me over at my Twitch channel, on Twitter, or on YouTube. You can also go to my channel and click the donate button if you've enjoyed what you heard here today, because I could use some fucking groceries. I am almost out of food. That's alright, I get paid in like a week, but that would be appreciated if anybody feels like doing that. Just on the topics that we were talking about, I think, I don't think that the Republican Party is currently the greatest threat in the world, but I do think that, like I said at the very, very beginning, I do worry about the ideology of QAnon and its various sort of splinters, and how much that has taken over the GOP. And I think we ought to all be paying very, very close attention to the 2022 elections to see just how many people win seats and see the attitude of the Republican Party, establishment Republicans, in response to that, whether they try and distance themselves from those people or they simply embrace them into the party. I think that will be a good indicator of where we're going. And if the Republicans win in 2024 after embracing this ideology, they will be in control of the world's superpower, the most powerful military in the world, the largest economy in the world, possibly, maybe. It's debatable. China may have overtaken the US at this point. But they will pose a very, very serious threat, not only to Americans, but to the rest of the world if they do gain power. So that's my position on that. I think we need to see where it goes in 2022.
All right, Peter.
Yeah, so I'm kind of new to this Twitch streaming thing, but you can find me at the same tag there, Pittelli like it is, with the underscores at Twitch. And when you go to my Twitch, you'll see my YouTube, my TikTok, and my Twitter links located there as well. As far as this question, I would say that the GOP is not the most dangerous in the world in terms of group. And they're not fascist, but they are. Trump was very authoritarian. Was the leader of the party. The party bent the knee to him time and time again, and they still are bending the knee to him. And when I mean the party, I mean the politicians that are in Congress. So he is an authoritarian. They're leaning towards authoritarian, and it is something, as Vivian said, that we should be watchful for and look out for, because it could definitely become a much larger problem than it currently is.